Everything from hats to short sleeve and long sleeve t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, zip-up hoodies, and much more. And we're adding new things all the time. Why would you not want to see my kids get a great college education and look great out in the public while you're doing it? Get the gear we wear all the time on the show, and there's only one place to get it. NextRound.store. That's NextRound.store.
Hey, coffee lovers, the Next Round blend is available right now. Our specialty coffee roasted on demand with 100% Arabica beans, available in light, medium, and dark roast. Order today at nextround.store, nextround.store.
Start your day online with our website, nextroundlive.com. The latest videos, podcasts, and college football stories. It's also a great way to stream the show or shop in the Next Round store. Stay connected by visiting nextroundlive.com.
Jim Dunaway, Lance Taylor, Ryan Brown, and Rockstar. Live from the Birmingham Racecourse Casino Studios, the Next Round, presented by Bud Light, is on now.
I can't believe Jay Price is doubting us in the chat room. So are you boys doing a show today? Question mark. Jay Price, are you not entertained? Of course we're doing a show today. Is it a Tuesday? Is it a weekday? Do we have developing news on the Alabama football front? Of course we're doing a show today. Jim Dunaway, Lance Taylor, Ryan Brown, and all the folks behind the scenes. This is not our normal setup. If you're watching us for the first time anywhere in the country, usually we're in a beautiful studio all together face to face, but because of weather here in central Alabama, where we're located in Birmingham, we are remote today from our different homes and locations, and we appreciate everybody bearing with us as we go nonstop over the next 3 hours to talk about everything going on, and we'll get to everything going on. But we'll start off the bat with just what's going on with Alabama football. I haven't seen it reported yet anywhere, guys, but it's a big portal day for Alabama defensive players because Alabama has their new DB. And I was clicking on something about the portal from somebody else, and the first name on top of the 24/7 portal list is Trey Amos, who I love as a defensive back. And I know we're all watching Caleb Downs, and last night we get word that Kane Womack is leaving South Alabama to come up and be the defensive coordinator with Kalen DeBoer. Man, clock's ticking on keeping that defensive side of the football and really that whole roster together in Tuscaloosa. LT, start us off, man. What do you think of the Womack hire and the clock ticking?
Well, look, obviously there's familiarity between Kane Womack and now Kalen DeBoer, guys that work together in Bloomington. And this is a young guy, energetic. You guys have played around the golf with him. He's 36 years old. He's got head coaching experience, obviously leaving an FBS job in South Alabama to take this job. Obviously, there's familiarity within the state. He recruited in Alabama to South Alabama. And this is a guy that's won 17 games over the last couple of years. So he's had success. So for him to, I think it shows you a couple of things. I think it shows you how big a coordinator job is, especially at a program like Bama, to leave an FBS job, a job you were having success at. And I think number two, the more important thing is the trust he's got in Caleb DeBoer. For people, there's no way Kane Womack is going to leave his job, a head job at South Alabama, to go as a defense coordinator under Womack or under Caleb DeBoer if he doesn't think it's going to work out. So he's got a lot of confidence in Caleb DeBoer.
And for those that don't know the connection, obviously they were together at Indiana under Tom Allen when Indiana was really good. That 1 year, Indiana had a really good year under Tom Allen. Both those guys cashed in on head coaching jobs. Kane Womack to South Alabama eventually. So they do have a familiarity, and I do think it's an interesting hire for all the reasons Lance mentioned, Dunaway. His experience. Now, he's young, but he's got some coordinator experience and some head coaching experience already, and he's been successful at both to varying degrees. His connections in the South. This is a guy that's super connected in Mobile, which is a recruiting hotbed, obviously, for any SEC school and throughout the state of Alabama. And just the familiarity of the two, knowing they know each other well. They've been friends. Even after their days in Indiana, they stayed in touch. In fact, Josh Pate last night sent out a couple of photos of Kane actually over in New Orleans at the Sugar Bowl in the team meeting rooms with the Washington players and with Kalen DeBoer. So this is a really interesting hire. And I'm with Lance. You know, we were Lance is the guy, it was Sean Lewis, right? That left the MAC job for Colorado.
Yeah. Sean Lewis left Kent State to go to Colorado.
And I remember when that happened, Dunaway, us saying, man, we're at a time where guys are leaving head coaching jobs to go be major coordinators. And here it is again. And I think you only see more and more of this as more money gets thrown around. And as we talked about when we were kind of hinting at this yesterday, we had been told that Kane was very much in the running. Your best path to being a major college football head coach might actually be being a coordinator rather than being a sitting head coach.
Yeah, and Lance, all you need to do is look at John Summerall at Troy, who in the same league is a hot up-and-coming coach. He won the Sun Belt in back-to-back years, and the best job he turned that into this year is Tulane. Now, Tulane's making some noise in the portal, and it's a decent job, but it's not a Power 5 job. And so if you're a successful defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator in the Power 5, especially in the SEC, I think it can get you a job somewhere further up the food chain. Now, that's one side of it, is him coming there. And yes, everyone in the chat room says, well, Alabama's going to pay more money than South Alabama. Well, yes, they will. I mean, look at what LSU is doing at defensive coordinator, $2.5 million. I don't know what he's going to make, but he can make more actually in Tuscaloosa than he could be as a head coach in the Sun Belt. The other side of this is Trey Amos. The other side of this is what's Caleb Downs going to do. I mean, the amount of talent that is in the portal or signing somewhere else for Alabama is a big storyline around the country, because this is one of the best rosters in college football, if not the best, before the retirement. And now it is being picked over like an animal you've hit on the side of the road, and here come those big black birds out of the sky. I don't even know what they're called.
They're called vultures.
They're vultures?
Yeah, man.
Even in the South?
Like, yeah. Oh, yeah. I saw they used to have one at the zoo, and it's been a long time. But you could see the vulture up close and personal and like eating its prey. And man, I forgot what the beak is actually called, but the talons, boy, they rip that skin, they rip that flesh off.
You think they got bad breath, Lance?
Yeah, I would say that a vulture has probably some of the worst breath out there, considering all they do is live off of dead carcasses.
Yep.
I would think that rot smell is probably, they're acclimated to it. They're probably fine with it. But Caleb Downs is one of those roadkill guys you don't want to be plucked away. And, you know, we talk about guys that have left the program and what people are getting and the money thrown at them, and they call it a business decision. You know, some of these guys are getting overpaid. I don't know if you can overpay Caleb Downs. You know, I know there's going to be a number that Alabama is just not going to match. But to me, he was the best player in year one in Tuscaloosa. I don't know how you guys felt.
Oh, I thought he was the best freshman in America.
Yeah, but I thought he was the best player maybe on Alabama's entire roster this year. I know going into the next year, he was going to be that. So you got to do everything you can to keep this guy. But at the end of the day, if somebody offers him 1.5, which I would not be surprised, you know, and Alabama doesn't want to match, you know, it's a business decision for Bama too, but man, that's a big name.
Brownie, I don't think there's a price. I mean, at some point, you have to draw a line in the sand and say you can't let the best freshman in college football walk out the door. I don't think you can get outbid on this one.
Yeah, I would agree completely. I think, you hate to set that precedent, Dunaway, because if Caleb Downs goes back to the locker room and says, look what I got, or if word leaks out in the media and says, look what I got, you're going to have a whole group of guys that are like, I may not be Caleb Downs, but I'm pretty important to the offense. I'm pretty important to the defense. And now it becomes a floodgate of guys in Kalen DeBoer's office or Kane Womack's office or Ryan Grubb's office saying, hey, it's nice to meet you guys. Let me tell you what it's going to take for me to stay here. And I mean, that's the precedent you fear setting. But the other side of that is losing key players. And you can't afford to do that either. I mean, there is a no-win situation in those terms. If you're Alabama right now, you've either got to pay the asking price and set a precedent that could cost you a lot more money down the road, or you got to lose key players. And that's the risk you run. That's the world we live in, and Alabama's going to have to play that game.
And truthfully, if you're an Alabama fan, since this portal started and everything, you haven't really paid that much attention to the portal. I mean, you see it in passing. You'll see it over there on the side of the road as you're driving through your gated community of college football with Nick Saban as the head coach, and you would pass it maybe past your guard shack where the barcode in the back of your SUV opens up your gate. You don't even have to stop, and you just fly into your own neighborhood. And you may see the pedestrians over there who are sifting through the trash of the portal on the side or trying to find that gem hidden over there. But Alabama hadn't had to worry about that in the portal era. The guys who have left Alabama, they weren't the real stars of the team. They were the backups, the guys that were providing depth. And the guys you plucked out, there were one or two here. They were supposed to contribute. Some turned out to be very important. Oftentimes there was a lot of pop and circumstance and not a lot of sizzle to the steak there. But now all of a sudden, you're Alabama without Nick Saban. And this has been a Portal 101 for this Alabama fan base. I think a lot of Alabama fans for the first time are actually learning about how the portal works. And as I'm seeing in the chat room, they're sitting here going, man, this needs to be regulated. We need rules.
I agree, though, man. There are no guardrails. It is the Wild West. It seems like it's getting wilder, but it works both ways. So Alabama gets guys plucked for them. Guess what? Alabama can go pluck guys from other rosters. And, the good news for Alabama fans is Nick Saban was the greatest of all time, no doubt. But he's a guy that really had reservations of embracing NIL, did embrace NIL. And they obviously got with it a little bit, but I don't know if Nick Saban was ever comfortable with it. From what you hear, Kalen DeBoer embraces it. He knows it is the future of college football, and he's all about it. So I know the collective's excited that he is 100% behind it, but to me, the number one priority out there is Caleb Downs.
So one of my lasting memories of right after Jennifer and I got married was the first time she went to buy groceries. And she came home and she was basically in tears. I said, what happened? She goes, you will not believe how much I just had to spend at the grocery store, because she had to buy everything, right? Like, we had just moved into our apartment and she had to go buy, all the cleaning supplies, buy meat, buy bread, buy milk, buy drinks, buy everything. And she's like, if this is what I have to spend at the grocery store all the time, I don't know how we're going to make it. And I was like, well, maybe some of this will last more than one trip to the grocery store. And ultimately it did. And that's Alabama's problem right now. Is Texas is able to run to the grocery store for a good steak and Isaiah Bond, right? And that's all they got to buy. Alabama's having to buy all the groceries at the same time right now. And that's what's going to happen. I mean, you just wait. One day Kirby Smart will retire or take an NFL job. And this same exact thing's going to happen in Georgia. Or Dabo will retire. And the same exact thing's going to happen at Clemson. Or Sark will move on. And it's going to happen at Texas. I mean, that's the way this is going to be. As Texas can come in and shop for one or two players, Alabama's now having to shop for all the groceries. They've got to make sure everybody on the roster that they value is taken care of. And I guess, you would say that's one of the unintended consequences of NIL. But it is what it is. And it's the way it's going to be forever now until they change something.
I will tell you guys to watch your toes, because I'm about to name drop here. Old Marty Smith line on the show. But I was on with Dusty and Danny on Sirius XM this morning. And when I was done, a sitting Power 5 athletic director texted me and said I did a good job. And I won't say his name, but I said, man, it's just crazy with all the people that are leaving or potentially leaving Alabama. And I said, good luck to you and your job the next 5 years. Buckle up. It's going to be, it's tough to do your job these days. And he said, quote, we created this monster ourselves and we got to live with it, end quote. And that's true. This is, when you're able to succeed at the way the system is and have success at it, you don't want to change it because it's working for you. And then all of a sudden, when you get to a certain point that it's starting to hurt you, then it's like, oh, dang it. Wish we hadn't have done this, but here we are. We live in this world now. So you got to load up your bullets and go play the game. And that's what's happening now.
Yeah, look, what was it? 20 guys initially entered the portal, even with Nick Saban as the head coach. Or maybe 15, and 5 have done it since divorce.
Yeah, but nobody was worried about that, right? Because that was just, hey, that happens every year. Alabama recruits so many good players. These guys are not up there in the too deep, or they're not the starters. They're going to leave. Business as usual.
Yeah, I think even if Caleb Downs, I mean, Alabama fans would obviously be upset because they see that this is it seems like a generational type player. But if Nick Saban was still there and Downs left, it would be like, okay, we can keep this thing together. I think the sky will be falling if Downs is to leave under Caleb DeBoer in the first week he takes over the program.
Yeah.
But Dunaway, the reason, it's not the reason, but it is one of the reasons. And it could, if this had happened, it could still be the same exact situation we're in right now in college athletics. But the NCAA had ample time to embrace this and prepare for it. And instead, they buried their heads in the sand and said, we're not paying play. We're not going to allow players. They've got to be amateurs. This antiquated amateurism that for some reason the NCAA has always loved, such an antiquated, stupid idea with awful roots. They've embraced it for 100, 150 years, however long it is. And they said, you're going to drag this out of our cold, dead hands. So they buried their head in the sand and thought this would go away, and it didn't go away. So now the NCAA wants to come and say, oh my God, we need guardrails. Well, you're the reason we don't have guardrails. The NCAA is the reason this is what it is. And now they're wanting to wring their hands and say it's got to be fixed when they could have fixed it years ago. Now, look, it could have gotten out of control and eventually got here. The NCAA only has to look in the mirror as the reason this is the way it is right now. And it's why I think the big schools will take it in their hands to try to fix this thing. And the NCAA will be out of business in 4, 5, 6 years. And the Alabamas and Auburns and Texases of the world will be in their own division, and other teams will be in their own division. That's I think what this is going towards.
Would you see what Jamie Chadwell said at the Bear Bryant Awards?
I did not.
Jamie Chadwell is the Liberty head coach, longtime Coastal Carolina coach. Did a great job this year. Had Liberty, the Fiesta Bowl, and he said, we need our own national championship. He's Liberty, and he was in the Fiesta Bowl. He was in the New Year's Six Bowl, and he said we need to go ahead and divide this. We need to have the Power Five, basically that division national championship, and the Group of Five needs its own national championship, and that comes from the coach who had the best year at that level this year, and he says we need our own national championship.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, why would you not? Because guess what? If you're the coach winning one of those national championships, and Jamie Chadwell would have been in that situation this year, are those not going to be the first guys that are hired? Yep. To the Big Ten jobs, the SEC jobs? Those are the guys that are going to be getting those jobs. So I'd say the same thing if I was Jamie Chadwell, but it does make sense. I mean, I don't know if I fully accepted or embraced that, but it's kind of the direction we're heading.
Okay, do me a favor, Brownie. You find us some good comments in the chat room over there. Yep. Brown's going to be in charge of the chat room while LT and I talk about Odie's and Redmont here to start off the show. Stephen Pearl will join us at 9:25. Again, if you're just joining the show, maybe for the first time ever, we are in remote locations today because of some wintry weather, icy roads in the area, and we couldn't all make it in safely. So this was our plan to secure that we had a show for you today. Stephen Pearl at 9:25. Dane Bradshaw joins us at 10 o'clock, hour number 2. Today. All the times are central here on the Next Round at Next Round Live on all social media platforms from TikTok to Instagram. And also, if you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook or Twitch or Twitter, anywhere you're watching us, subscribe, follow, give us a thumbs up or a like, and we appreciate that so much. LT, first off, tell us about our great friends at Odie's as we get ready for another wonderful week of trivia.
Trivia tomorrow night. Hopefully this weather will cooperate with that, but we do it every Wednesday night at the original location in Crestline. There are 2 locations now, the newest in Homewood right there in Edgewood on the corner of Oxmoor and Broadway. Great food from Rodney Davis, including the award-winning wings, delicious burgers, great sandwiches. Don't forget this time of year, they've got that tomato bisque. They've also got the chili, fantastic food, ice cold beer buckets full of Bud Light. Get in, see Will Haber in that great step. 2 locations. The original in Crestline, now Edgewood. It's Odie's Tavern.
And the lovely Maggie is back from her trip up to Duke for a few days, and good to have her back in town. And we're at home together this morning. If it was summertime, I'd ask her to make us a nice little flask or whatever you call it, craft of mimosas, but we're down in the coffee today because it's chilly outside. But if you're doing mimosas or Bloody Marys or anything, if you're off work today, always drink responsibly and always use our friends at Redmont Vodka, Charles Barkley's company, right?
Yep, locally owned and operated. Barkley, one of the great faces behind it. Eleanor Estes, Montel, Cindy. They do such a great job. That local crew really getting that brand out there. Available in 22 states now. Ask for it by name if they don't have it. Tell them to get it. 8 times distilled, gluten-free. It's Redmont vodka.
Hotel Montel Redmont. We need a song to sing with Redmont vodka there. I like that.
Why are you so giddy today?
Well, I think I just hit on it. Maggie's back in town last night. And number two, Tampa Bay won, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on.
I cannot believe my Rams are not playing in Tampa this weekend. We would have whipped y'all's ass.
Yeah. Easy to say from the sidelines, but we'll get into that. It's a long show. Tell us about the chat room, Bernie. What's happening over there? What do people think about everything we've touched on so far with Womack? And by the way, I've said Womack forever, and I was talking to Simone Sessions, a great sports reporter down in Mobile last night. We were talking about Kane, and she goes, "Please stop saying Womack. It's not Womack." And I said, "It's Wommack. How's it not Womack?" And she says, "It's like hammock, but Womack. Womack."
Hey, can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
We literally have the same exact agents that he has. Our agents are the same people that represent him. I think they would know too, right? Couldn't we maybe reach out to them? I didn't know it was an issue.
Oh, I didn't either. I said, we called him Kane Womack to his face several times.
Yeah.
His dad was defensive coordinator in the league. We called him Womack.
I know.
I'm just saying she may be wrong. I'd love to know the answer.
Situation?
What now?
Is this a Marcel Darius situation where?
So you think he was Womack until he got the Bama DC job, and he says, "Now I'm going to say Womack."
I don't know. I'm going Womack. I'm going Womack from now on.
Okay.
I'm trying to big time you.
I will text our agents who again represent him, so I'm assuming they know how to say his name, and we'll get to the bottom of that one. All right, there's a common thread in the chat room, 2 common threads that we'll touch on here. I'm not going to read specific ones because it's a lot of people saying the same thing. Is like one of the issues with the rule right now is anybody could raid Alabama and Washington and Arizona, but they can't raid anybody else to replace parts. Like if somebody comes in and gets a Caleb Downs, great. But if I'm Alabama, I can't go get a replacement for Caleb Downs in the portal until the spring. Or if somebody comes in and gets Jabbar Muhammad out of Washington, which Alabama may well do, by the way, if I'm Washington, I'm limited as to where I could shop. And that is, I'd not thought of it in those terms, but that's right. So if you're a Washington player, now a South Alabama player, an Alabama player, an Arizona player, you've got 30 days, but those schools can't go touch anybody else right now. I don't know how you address that, guys, but that is kind of an interesting deal when you think about it in those terms.
And I thought that too, Brown, but that's how I got to the Amos story. I remember now that you brought it up. Matt Zenas sent this out today, and it had a link to the 247sports.com updated portal file. And the reason I clicked on it because it said, this is 43 minutes ago, Ohio State tight end Sam Hart has entered the transfer portal. Chris Hummer and I have learned for 247 Sports. And I thought to myself, well, the portal's closed for everybody except Alabama, Washington, and Arizona right now. And I clicked on it, and sure enough, he's in the portal. And maybe he's been in it long, and he's so far down the food chain, they're just now getting into it. Didn't make sense to me. But I don't either.
I got the pronunciation. It is Womack.
Womack?
Womack.
Womack.
That's from our guys.
That's from our agents. Okay, they would know. I wish, I played 18 holes of golf with our 2 agents, Coach Womack, and I think I called him Coach Womack the whole time, and they never corrected me. None of them. Now, Kane's the nicest guy in the world, but I would have appreciated our agents pulling me to the side and saying, "Hey, you're saying this wrong."
Yeah, I mean, how humble do you have to be to let people butcher your name for years?
I'll tell you this, and it means nothing in terms of him getting the Alabama job. He is literally the nicest guy I've ever met in coaching. And we've met a lot of coaches, and we've met a lot of nice coaches. But I think he would take the record as the nicest guy I've ever met in coaching.
Yeah, I was just going to let you guys know, like, the word is it couldn't pass up on an opportunity to work with DeBoer again. And it really was all about winning a national championship.
Yeah, it's official from South Alabama now. He is resigned at South Alabama, and the next thing will be the official release from Alabama. saying he's joined the staff over there, but that is no surprise. Everyone continues to do that. Is people saying my audio is my audio dropping occasionally? Is that happening?
Sounds fine to me. I don't know.
Okay.
People are, I love this, man. I don't know what social media has done to our dialogue, but Bryce has given us eye rolls. We didn't go to the studio. There were a bunch of feminine people because we didn't go to the studio.
I was about to ask that because I just asked somebody something I need internally, and they're like, well, hopefully we can get in the office tomorrow. And I was like, I don't know how bad it is.
Yeah.
I will tell you this. C-Stu came over last night, and we had an awesome dinner, and we watched the game, and he ended up staying here last night, but he left his truck. He parked it down on the bottom of the
Done.
Oh,
Never see it again.
Well, he left, and I'm like, dude, if you slide through my fence and go into my pool in that big ass truck, we're gonna have a problem. And he's like, I can handle this. And I'm like, you don't even know how icy it is. But I haven't seen him. I guess he got out of here.
Who knows? Well,
But is it bad? Is it bad on 280?
My wife drove it today and said there were wrecks all over the place. But Bryce is the toughest guy in the world. He got out and drove today, so that's also for him. All right. Stephen Pearl is with us now. The Auburn assistant basketball coach is going to be kind enough to join us every Tuesday at this time throughout the season until, there's no way we could bring bad luck, Coach. So we appreciate you doing that. How are you today?
Doing well, fellas. How you guys doing?
We're a little ice stand up here, but it's okay. I'm going to pull a Dunaway right here. It'd take a lot of ice to cool your team off right now. You guys are red hot.
Well, I would imagine Taylor's probably still in the studio doing all the heavy lifting right now, and you guys are just sitting in the comfort of your own homes, not doing a damn thing. So
that's right.
Sounds about right.
You got it.
Taylor is part of our, and this is no disrespect because I'm going to get to a point here, Stephen. She is part of our bench, and y'all's bench. Like, I don't think enough people are talking about it. The production you guys get night in, night out. Every time I look, it's like I think you're coming off 49 points this weekend off that bench, but it's like 40 plus every game.
Yeah, I saw a stat yesterday, which was kind of interesting. Evan Manaya's got a analytics website, and it basically ranked the top five-man lineups in the country with a minimum of 75 possessions played, and our bench lineup is the most efficient lineup in the country right now, as far as offensive efficiency and defensive efficiency, which is that's a wild stat when your bench is the best lineup in the country right now. So it just speaks to the depth that we've had. It speaks to that group, kind of coming together and just feeding off each other. They come in and, after our starters have tried to wear down the other team's starters, the other team's bench comes in and they just, kind of wreak havoc and go crazy out there. You got KD and Chad and Dylan and Trey and Chaney. Like, those guys are all very athletic, high energy type players. And, they do an unbelievable job of feeding off each other, sharing the ball and just bringing us an extra boost off that bench. And it's really worked out well for us. And it's been our biggest strength so far this year.
How do you get into a role or into a position where people accept their roles? Because, I think Dylan Cardwell's playing his best basketball. KD just brings every time he's on the floor, something's going to happen. Not always good, but usually good for Auburn, more times than not good for Auburn. There's just so many people that seem to accept the role, and I'm going to run into a wall 100 miles per hour with that role for Auburn. How do you coach that up in people?
Jay, that's a good question. That's the hardest thing that we have to do in our profession is just getting guys to buy into roles. Because if you look at somebody like Dylan Cardwell, look at somebody like Chad Baker, look at somebody like Katie Johnson, like those guys could all be starting, Trey Donaldson, those guys could all be starting at other schools in the SEC right now, but they're coming off the bench for Auburn. And, I think it's just, it speaks a lot to them and kind of how they were raised and how they were brought up to be able to understand and accept the role of coming off the bench and really just, kind of buying into it and thriving off of it. Dylan's, he's had to play behind guys like Walker Kessler, Janai Broom, and he's waited his turn, but he's done an unbelievable job of buying into what we need him to do. And he's probably the best defender in the SEC right now. Trey Donaldson, a guy that, could have come in and started this year. He all summer long helps Aiden Holloway come along to learn what we're doing day in and day out while competing with them. And then when Aiden gets the nod at the beginning of the year, he makes the most of his minutes, and he's been unbelievable, the last 5 games in our plus minus chart, just being effective and, closing out games for us and doing all the little things. And then obviously, guys like Katie and Chad are both 2 guys that could easily be starting for us. But I think they do a really good job of feeding off each other coming off the bench, and they play off each other really well. And, those guys have just done an unbelievable job of accepting their roles. Now, the challenging part is, as we have a little bit of success, are we going to continue to do that? And that's human nature, to feel good about yourselves and think, well, I probably should be starting, or I should be doing more of this or more of that. But if our guys are able to buy into that for the rest of the season, we could have a pretty good year.
Coach Stephen Pearl is with us, Auburn assistant men's basketball coach, joining us each Tuesday at 9:25. They got Vandy tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, SEC Network in Nashville. He's with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. Through Monday night's games, I haven't checked after last night, but you guys were 4th in the country in assist-to-turnover ratio. And I don't know, I don't know the statistics you guys value more than others. It would seem like that one would have to be pretty high, though.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things that we tried to make an adjustment on from last year to this year was just sharing the ball a little bit, because that's something that we really struggled with. We had some really talented one-on-one scorers last year, and we didn't get off the ball enough. And I think that was really a big reason why our offense wasn't as good as it could have been, because we had guys that could really make shots and could make plays. But once one guy makes a selfish play, it's kind of contagious to that point. So one of the things that we really tried to do with this year's team was really preach on making the extra pass, getting the hockey assist, and one more. And we assist on 65% of our made field goals this year. That's 4th in the country. Last year it was 54%. 54% is still pretty high, but 64% is, like you said, number 4 in the country. So our guys have done a really good job. They realize that when we do share the ball, good things happen. You look at the LSU game, we're up 28 points with 11 minutes left. We have 17 assists on, I think, 23 made field goals at that point. And then we stopped sharing the ball. They cut it to 8 points. And it's just a perfect, way to teach to our guys, like, listen, if we don't share the ball, we're not as effective as when we just go play hero ball and go one-on-one. So it's something that our guys have bought into, have done a really good job of. Our point guard play, our assist turnover ratio is ridiculous between those 2 point guards right now. Trey and Aiden have not made bad decisions or bad plays in ball screen or in transition. They're making the easy pass, making the easy play, and it really helps when you don't have live ball turnovers, when you're going to get a shot up on most possessions.
You guys haven't lost since first Sunday in December. That was Selection Sunday for the football fans out there, and you guys have been dominant in these games. But Bruce came out a couple of days ago, and he's like, he's like, there's 15 teams better than us right now in college basketball. I know you probably want to keep with the coach speak, and you probably agree with that. But from a fan's perspective, watching you guys on the couch, you look like one of the top 15 teams in college basketball. But is there something that you guys definitely have to get better at right now to ultimately get to your goal?
It's tough because, you look at these games and, like you said, like the margin of victory is kind of ridiculous on a few of these games, But I think the biggest thing was just consistently making shots. If you look at the games that we've struggled in, Appalachian State was our 2nd or 3rd worst shooting performance in 10 years since we've been here. A&M, we really didn't shoot it very well. That was a close game. So the games that we've had closer games, we haven't shot, like Southeastern Louisiana early in the year. Like, we didn't shoot it well in that game. So being able to consistently knock down open shots is going to be really important for this team moving forward. Continuing to rebound the ball and then just not fouling. We've had a really big issue the last couple of years of fouling too much and sending teams to the foul line. Thankfully so far, knock on wood, they've been allowing teams to play a little bit more in the SEC, and they've allowed, the contact and the physicality to be up. So, we just got to continue to guard without fouling, making open shots. But, it's going to, we got a tough week this week, but then, you go to Alabama at Mississippi State, like the gauntlet is every single night. So, for us, the biggest thing is teams that don't fall apart in the middle of the season are going to have the best chances of being successful. So we got to keep this team together. Can't get too high. You can't get too low. Right now we've won 9 in a row, so we can't be too high right now because you go to Vanderbilt, they almost beat Alabama, who, how the hell is Alabama not a top 25 team right now? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, that's why the AP poll doesn't mean anything. Like, Alabama is one of the top 15 teams in the country right now, and Vanderbilt had them to 3 points at home. So, like, that's a tough game. Ole Miss is a top 22 program right now. They're playing as well as anyone in the country. So, every single night is going to be a tough matchup. So it's just staying consistent, not getting too high, not getting too low, and just, continue to do what we're doing.
Listen, you and Pruitt and the whole assistant coaching staff are really good at what you do. But you mentioned Taylor Corn, our social media director. Did you see the seats that she had for me and her at the Texas A&M game?
I was very curious how you guys got those tickets, and it's not surprising that she'd be the one that would have that connection.
Yeah. So we're sitting on the court, and I spent 40 minutes just trying to get you or Pruitt to look over into the heavy booster area there, just so I could give you a, hey, here I am. And I could never get your attention. I'm glad you noticed. I was reading the little card they put in your seat. I was like, if I really get on one of these Texas A&M players or an official and get a technical foul called on the team, finally they'll notice where I'm sitting probably.
I mean, the last 2 games you've come to, you've been courtside. So I wasn't that surprised, because that's just kind of where you are. And I mean, the next round's gotten so big that's just where you guys are expected to be, is courtside. You can't be anywhere else.
Yeah. I keep waiting for you to say, when am I going to see that donation come into the booster line here?
Well, that's why I'm doing the show every Tuesday, to try and get some NIL donations to try and help us out throughout the years,
There you go. Hey, do you like playing? Stephen Pearl is with us. Do you like playing at Vandy? It's a weird setup, end zone benches, up on a stage. It's a little bit of a different atmosphere than you get anywhere else in the SEC.
When I was a player, that was my favorite gym to play in. For some reason, I mean, it was one of our biggest rivals, so I always played well at Vandy. Coaching at Vandy's is weird, because you're obviously sitting on the baseline. I'm glad they added the new rule where the coach can walk up and down the sideline now, because it was really difficult as a player, it was great, because in the first half, you didn't have to listen to your coach, because you were so far down the other end that coach had to stay on the side, or the baseline, and he was yelling at us, and we would just be like, oh, coach, we can't hear you. But now that they can walk up the sideline, it's a little different. So as a player, it was great. Second half, obviously it's right in front of your bench, but I mean, it's a cool environment. It's different. It's the good part for us in Nashville. I don't know if it'll be this way this year because of the snow, but we usually have a really, big attendance, big crowd that'll come out to that game. I think last year half the building was Auburn fans. So hopefully we can get some people to brave it out, the weather, unlike you guys today, and show up to the game. But no, it's a cool environment, and it's something that obviously will be a good challenge for us.
Hey, growing up in Wisconsin, and then obviously Knoxville, what's the worst weather you've ever seen?
Oh man,
because I mean, this is child's play compared to some of the stuff you guys would get in Wisconsin, right?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the Midwest, so Iowa, Indiana, Wisconsin. I mean, in Wisconsin, it was different, because like they would have everything done before it snowed. It's like it would snow 2 feet and the roads would be perfectly clear, so you'd still be able to go to school, which sucked. But like in Indiana, if it snowed a couple feet, like you'd be home for the day. So there was a bad snowstorm when I was in I want to say first or second grade. We got to stay home for the entire week, so that was a lot of fun. But yeah, Wisconsin, they don't mess around. They get those trucks out a week in advance. They know when that weather's coming, and they get it taken care of ahead of time.
All right, Coach. Good luck tomorrow night. We appreciate it. Look forward to doing this all season long. We'll see you next Tuesday.
All right, fellas. Appreciate you guys. Stay safe.
All right, buddy. You too. Take care. That is Stephen Pearl, the Auburn assistant basketball coach, who will join us every Tuesday throughout the season at 9:25 Central Time on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. They've gotten hit a lot worse than us up there, as he said. So I don't know what that crowd will be like, but my gut tells me Auburn fans will be like, this is one of our few chances to see them in Nashville, and Vandy fans will be like, we got 15 home games. I'm not going to go out to this one.
That's right. So that's Auburn coming up tomorrow night. Alabama tonight. More on that game coming up in a second. Dane Bradshaw will talk about the Tide. He's on the call tonight for the SEC Network at 10 Central at the top of the hour. The show being brought to you by a couple of great sponsors. That includes our friends at Michelson and World of Wills. Tell us about Michelson first, LT.
Yeah, make 2024 the year you get that sight right. Maybe you wear the contacts, the eyeglasses. You're wasting money each and every year. I'm speaking from experience. I used to wear the contacts for about a decade. Finally went and got the procedure done. Took 12 minutes for both eyes. I now have 2015 better than 2020. Call 205-969-8100. Ask for Amy. She's going to hook you up with a hassle-free consultation. Zero to lose to find out if LASIK is right for you. Dr. Mark Michelson, Dr. Jen Michelson, best in the business. For more information, michelsonlaservision.com.
And our friends at World of Wills, Brown.
Yeah, World of Wills is coming to the BJCC, and it is going to be a very, very fun time. If you've never been, the kids, first of all, will love it. They got a ton of stuff for the kids there. But if you are a car aficionado, if you love things like that, you're going to love the World of Wills. You can get tickets to the O'Reilly World of Wills at any O'Reilly Auto Parts. You can find out more information at worldofwills.net. But here's a little bit of what's going on. WWE legend Mick Foley is going to be there Friday night, and you can get photos, autographs from all these people I'm talking about. Dave Kindig from Kindigit Designs. I think I've been saying Kindigit. I think it's Kindigit now that I've read his name. Womack, Jim. We're learning names today.
I mean, is it really DeBoer?
Yeah, I know. We'll never know. Jerry Mathers, the Beeve, is going to be there on Sunday. Plenty of kids to do. Kids World rides, characters, movie cars, free Hot Wheels drag racing all weekend long. Don't miss the Super Show, where you can see one-of-a-kind vehicles from all around the country. And this is coming February 2nd through 4th. February 2nd through 4th, you can get discount tickets at O'Reilly Auto Parts, any O'Reilly Auto Parts store, or get tickets to the O'Reilly Auto Parts World of Wills at worldofwills.net. All information at worldofwills.net.
LT is out of the picture for a moment. The dogs are on the move. He's back in the picture now.
I let them down for the Steven interview because they love dog lovers. And so I want them to get a little feel for that. But Chili drank my coffee, and now they are scrapping.
You drink coffee?
You see that?
Yeah. Well, developing news. I didn't know you drank coffee.
I didn't either.
No, Maddie makes like a really good kind of like it's a really good tasting coffee, but it's one of those, I don't know, it just gives me a jolt. So I drink it a little bit, not much.
Like a latte?
Yeah, kind of. It's iced, so it's an iced coffee, whatever that is. I just don't want to get coffee breath.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're drinking coffee until you brush your teeth, you've got coffee breath.
Yeah, but I'm saying like I knew somebody that had like habitual coffee breath. I've known a couple of those people. You guys never know anybody like that?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Man, it just ain't worth it. Like that's the only, like there's smoker breath and there's coffee breath. And those are two you can't shake.
And that is something like if you, I don't know if this has happened to you guys before, but there was somebody I met years ago, and I think they had just smoked a cig, and they had that cigarette breath, and it's all I can think of anytime I ever see them. I don't see them frequently, but every time I see them, it's all I think of is like, well, I bet their breath sucks right now.
Oh, 100%. One of my first professional kisses of all time.
Professional?
Well, I mean, like a kiss as a working person. God, it would have been when I did the pool parties for, I think it was Magic 96.
Right.
There was a DJ, and I can't remember her name, but she was a coffee drinking smoker. And I remember that kiss was a one-off. That was a one and done. That was a
one-off.
Yeah, that was never going to happen again. So I've tried to only kiss non-smokers ever since my late teens there.
Yeah.
Didn't you have to paddle back on a inner tube because the chick kept smoking?
It was her first cigarette. She was going to do it as a because all the other they were drinking and all the other girls were going to smoke. So I said, if you trying to think of her name real quick. God, I can't remember her name all of a sudden for some reason. But we were at Blue Water Park in Pelham, whatever it was called back then, and the big quarry. And I'm not a good swimmer. And we were out on one of those wooden floats. And Dawn was her name. And her friends were lighting up cigarettes. And she was about to light one too, because we were drinking and laying out in the middle of summer. And I was like, if you light that cigarette, we're done. And she laughed, thought I was joking, and lit the cigarette.
Get the hell out of here.
She lit that cigarette, and I started packing up my Bud Lights in my little styrofoam cooler. And she was like, they call me JR. They were like, JR, where are you going? I said, I told you, if you light that cigarette, we're done. And I put that styrofoam on that cooler, set it in the inner tube, jumped to the inner tube. It was always backwards, Brown. And I rolled all the way in, got all the way to the shore, grabbed my inner tube, grabbed my cooler, set the inner tube down, walked and got my sunbird, and I was out of there.
Sunbird. Don't miss that part of the story, Lance. He got his sunbird.
Yeah. I haven't kissed a smoker in probably 30 years. It was so 90s. Yeah, I'm just saying, but it's one of those things like when you think about it, you'll never forget that taste.
How about when I was in middle school, we were at a party once and there was a girl and she had never kissed a guy or anyone to my knowledge. And,
It's a better party if you start it the other way around.
This is in middle school. So a friend of a mutual friend comes up and says, "Hey, so-and-so's never kissed a guy. Would you be she wants you to be her first kiss." I'm like, "I'm down for that." So we did. And it tasted like coffee. And I'm like, she's in middle school. She's like a coffee drinker. How did it taste like coffee? It's the weirdest thing.
That's the end of the story. You never found out why.
That's the end of the story. Yeah, I'm not going to use her name.
Boy, I bet she tastes like a dungeon now. She's tasting like coffee when she's 12 or 13.
Yeah.
Wow.
She was. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it because she's a cute girl, and she ended up being, really nice looking and all. But I never,
I thought you were heading down an NBC 48 Hours there at the start of that. Turns out her PE teacher was a coffee drinker. Let's get into what happened last night, and we'll get back and reset what's going on with Alabama football and everything else in college football. But this Jim's Life's Really Good is brought to you by our friends at Woodhouse Day Spa. Woodhouse Day Spa. Tell us about that, LT.
Yeah, they've got a great menu of different options. They've been voted Alabama's best day spa. WoodhouseDaySpas.com for more information. Stop in, see Stuart and all of the fine folks out there. Gift card, simple solution. Give the gift of luxury from Birmingham's best day spa. It's the Woodhouse Day Spa located at the Summit Shopping Center.
And again, if you're joining us for the first time ever, this is not our normal setup. We have some weather here in the area, and because we own the business, we're good business owners who made a decision yesterday to play it safe. So everybody, all of our 12 employees are spread out all over central Alabama in the comforts of their home. And Lunsford, can you punch yourself up real quick? Just show Lunsford is manning the board, and Forrester and Little T are doing some things. Say hi, there's Lunsford there. So everybody's behind the scenes making this work on remote here this morning. We appreciate everybody so much for being with us. I know it's not our normal show, but on the flip side of that, no commercial breaks today, just our live in-show endorsements. So we're going nonstop. So you may see Lance, or you may see Ryan, or maybe even the oldest one of the group, Jim, occasionally leave the screen. We'll call that a bathroom break, is why they will leave the screen, because we're going nonstop, and at some point nature may call. So it's a casual show. So guys, if you got to leave, just check out. I did the living up there during the Saban resignation and the hiring of DeBoer nonstop, and I just hung up a sign said in the bathroom. If you were tuning into our stream and I wasn't on any of the cameras, I had a bathroom sign up. We won't go to that extent today. Just assume if one of our screens is blank, it's because somebody's in the bathroom. Last night, before we get back to college football, the much talked about and much shamed NFC South eliminated the NFC East completely from the playoffs. The Cowboys had already been run out by the Packers, and last night the Buccaneers beat the Eagles like a drum. Game not even as close as the score would indicate, and Tampa Bay beat Philadelphia, who is completely, after a 10-1 start, completely broken.
Yeah, they lose 6 of their last 7. Jason Kelsey retires after the game, probably a Hall of Fame center. Nick Sirianni, I thought this was laughable a couple of weeks ago when people were talking about, is he coaching for his job? Something is going on internally in that locker room. They've got a ton of talent. Look, without A.J. Brown, still Devontae Smith had a big game last night, but they got walked off the field against Tampa Bay, we talk about exceeding expectations. We talked about it with the Rams. I don't know if anybody outside of maybe the Texans have exceeded more expectations than Tampa, but you can't get walked off the field like that. And I've never seen a team at 10-1 look like one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the NFL have this complete implosion and without massive injuries. And something's going on internally. So I'm not going to be surprised. I don't know what you guys think. I mean, they were a play away from winning a Super Bowl last year, but I wouldn't be surprised Nick Sirianni loses his job.
100%, Brown. And I texted you. I said, I've never seen a team in Philadelphia last night. I've never seen a team look so disinterested in playing a playoff game.
Yeah, and you know what they were least interested in, Dunaway?
Tackling.
Making a tackle.
Yes.
And that's where the criticism land started for this Philadelphia team, was Sean Asai, the defensive coordinator, who got replaced by Matt Patricia. in the play calling mid-season, and it really didn't improve. I mean, I think it improved, in the short term, but in the long term, it's who they were. They're not a physical team, not a physical enough team anyway. And boy, it showed up last night. They had zero interest in tackling Tampa, and that was an embarrassing performance. It's hard to imagine with all Sirianni's accomplished, he could get fired. But if in a vacuum, if I'm an Eagles fan, I do not like what I saw over the last 2 months of the season.
On the flip side of that, LT, and this started really with Tampa Bay's trip up to Green Bay. That offense, all of a sudden, I know they won their final game against Carolina 9-0, playing as conservative as you can, trying to just clinch that playoff spot and not turn the ball over and let Carolina get a cheap score because the Panthers' offense was that bad. But they were so good at Green Bay. I think they were a little better last night than they were at Green Bay. And Baker Mayfield becomes the first Tampa Bay Buccaneer quarterback in history, Doug Williams, Tom Brady, Brad Johnson included, to go 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and over 300 yards in the postseason. Baker freaking Mayfield.
Yeah, look, and had multiple drops. Mike Evans had a drop. It was probably a pass interference down in the end zone with Cade Otton, but still a play he should have made. Rachaad White's been really good running the football, and I think that's one of the keys to Baker Mayfield having the season that he's having right now. But Otton's a weapon. Obviously, Mike Evans is a guy that doesn't age. But this is a sneaky team now that gets a good draw with Detroit, because Detroit finally wins that first postseason game, but all the pressure's on Detroit. I mean, Tampa Bay's obviously playing with house money, and just imagine one of those two teams is going to be in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah. Don't know why you guys got to marry Baker Mayfield, don't you?
I wouldn't hate it for, if it's not long term, I wouldn't hate it. He was, for those that don't know, he was a 1-year deal. And the only reason they went and got him was twofold. One, Sean McVay at the end of the year used him and made him look really good again. So that made him a little bit more attractive. But, and LT can attest to this, much like what the Rams have had to do, the Buccaneers were $81 million of dead cap money. So they just had no money. They were broke, and they had to get a quarterback on the cheap. Kyle Trask is there still on a rookie contract, and they went and got Baker Mayfield on a 1-year deal at basically the veteran minimum and gave him some incentives and let them battle it out in camp. And I'll remember when Forrester, the first day of camp, remember that day we showed that video of Trask and Baker Mayfield, and it was on air and they couldn't complete a pass. We rolled like 90 seconds of just one incomplete pass out of the other after another. And now that team has won a division and won a playoff game now. It's amazing the job Baker Mayfield has done.
And I don't think I've ever seen this, though. I mean, Baker Mayfield, and to me, people are talking about the comeback player of the year should be Baker Mayfield or Joe Flacco. Take your pick. And right now it's easy to say Baker Mayfield because they're still alive. The Damar Hamlin, I understand that he got brought back to life, but we're talking about an on-field impact.
Yeah.
I think I saw something. If you were voting, would you vote Hamlin?
Well, I would name.
It's just a funny line. I understand Damar Hamlin was brought back to life, but look what these other guys have done.
He's not an impact guy at all. They were nice to give him a roster spot just because the NFL loves these stories. But if he's not going to contribute, there's no reason he should have a roster spot. And one of those guys should win comeback player. But I don't know if I've ever seen a team in the postseason 0 for 11 on 3rd and 4th downs combined.
Yeah.
And how you get beat by more than 2 touchdowns when you don't turn the football over. Like they didn't even turn the football over and they got dominated.
Yeah. I would tell you, Brown, and you text me, I wasn't going to bother either one of you with my lowly Bucs playoff text, but you texted me out of the blue late in the game and said, man, your defense. And I said, they were lighting him up. They were coming at Jalen. And the reason why is because the Eagles were hurt. They had one viable deep threat, and it was Devontae Smith. And they knew if they brought the house on almost every play, then he wouldn't have a lot of time to throw it deep to Devontae, who was uncoverable. He's such a good receiver. So they just lit him up every play. It was 5 people, 6 people coming on every play. And I think the stat partway through the 4th quarter said he had on average 2 seconds to throw the football.
Yeah, and Hurts took an awful safety there. I do not know what he was doing in that situation, but that
Changed the game. Yep.
Oh, it did. It changed the game. It put you guys up 9. I mean, you had dominated that game and you were only up 7. I mean, it was one broken play away from being a tie ball game.
Yep.
And that changed it forever, because then you get the field position off the kick and you score right away and the game's over at that point. But that was just emblematic of the whole game, is the offensive line, which has been so good all year for Philadelphia, did not hold up against the blitz and the defensive front for Tampa. And then Hurts was just, he was not himself. And that safety was just awful. But he had plenty of time to throw that ball away, and he held it, backed up into the end zone, then tried to throw it away at the last second and created the safety, which is going to be a safety either way. Just a terrible way to go out. I mean, it's like this Philadelphia team, because do you know what it looked like, Lance? It looked like the last time Jalen Hurts was in that building. Well, not the last time, but the last time in the postseason he was in that building, when they were awful against Tom Brady and the Bucs on the way to the Bucs winning the Super Bowl.
You know, right now, 32 GMs, how many would take Jalen Hurts over their quarterback? And I think it's interesting, because last year, if Jalen doesn't get hurt and miss 2 games, I think he is your MVP.
Yeah.
And how you go from that to where they are right now, because you got a ton of talent around you. Now, I do agree, it doesn't seem like a lot of guys are buying in right now, but I just wonder, I mean, if you went through the list, is he even a top 15 quarterback right now?
I was just thinking of the playoff teams currently, like Pittsburgh would take him right now, I think.
Yeah.
I think they let him go across state. Dunaway, would you take Baker moving forward or Hurts moving forward?
I refuse to answer on the grounds it may incriminate me.
It's hard to answer after last night. There's no doubt about that after watching it against both those sides.
Well, we're 2-0 in the playoffs against the Eagles the last 2 times we played them. And the reason why is well, at least when we played them in Tampa. I don't know if we played them last year, but Jalen does not a threat to that defense.
Obviously, Tua's got his faults, and it seems like if the conditions aren't ideal, Tua doesn't really play great football. Would you rather have Tua or Jalen?
I think Jalen would thrive in that offense, because I'm not going to say you're making easy passes, but when both Waddle and Tyreek Hill are on the field, you got open guys, choices.
Wow.
So
you say Jalen over Tua's.
No. That's not what I said. But if Tua, left and Jalen Hurts came in, I don't think that offense would miss a time. But right now, would I trade Tua for Hurts? No, I would not.
Yeah, well, Miami is saying they want to. Their goal is to sign Tua to a long-term contract. That's news today. Hemp Hill Services bringing you part of the show, LT. And then listen, I'm not going to say what I'm about to show you doesn't happen every year. But I didn't notice it for 17 years when Nick Saban was there. I'm going to show you something after you tell us about Hemp Hill.
Yeah, I had to call Andrew, reached out to him last night. I'm going to have to get those guys by. I have a little plumbing issue right now, but plumbing, heating, cooling since 1954. They are the name that Birmingham has trusted. Call Adam, Chad, Andrew, the guys there. Make sure you tell them the next round sent you. They're going to hook you up with that $69 tune-up. Make sure that unit is ready to keep up with this really ever-changing weather. 205-229-2090 or hemphillservices.com.
Dane Bradshaw talking Alabama basketball coming up in 2 minutes here at the top of the hour. Listen, it may happen every year. I'm sure it does happen every year because Alabama's had these players on the roster for forever, but I've never noticed it before. But today, due to severe weather, walk-on tryouts at the University of Alabama has been postponed until next week. I mean, they've got walk-ons. I know they do, but I've never noticed the tryouts before.
Yeah, I've seen this. They do this every year. In fact, I think we one time talked about trying to get you or Rockstar doing it with Scott over there rolling on the footage.
I just don't remember it. But
yeah,
I'm super sensitive to the roster over there all of a sudden.
You guys help me out, but where are walk-ons on the list of priorities right now for Kalen DeBoer?
I'd say very low.
Yeah.
Very low. I don't think you had to twist Kalen's arm to cancel this today.
Well, I think it was moving parts all over, and I think somebody, it could have been a Freddie Roach, somebody that's familiar with Alabama weather. Hey, we panic. Grocery stores are empty. This is an easy way to cancel this today.
Yeah, it's tomorrow. I misspoke. It's tomorrow, the 17th. I can't believe it's already January 16th.
I know.
Today.
Well, one random thing I thought of is, and I don't know if the DeBoer family, I know Kalen DeBoer is still here. I don't know if they went back to Seattle, but imagine, you're a South Dakota native. You've spent time your last 2 years in Seattle, Washington. You've been in Bloomington, Indiana, and you wake up to what's on the ground today and has shut our state down. You're like, what in the world is going on here? These people are not at all prepared for this stuff, are they?
Yeah. We can't even make a snowman out here today.
Yeah, I can't even scrape up a handful of snow and they shut school down.
A new favorite radio and digital show is not even in studio today. Why are they in 3 separate boxes here like they're calling an Auburn basketball game? What's going on?
When's the mayor coming on?
Yeah, when is the Huntsville mayor coming on? Top of the hour here. The show being brought to you before we get to Dane Bradshaw is being brought to you brought to you by the folks at the University of Montevallo. I saw him. I was just going to throw Montevallo in there really quick. Montevallo.edu. They play basketball there too, but they've got 23 NCAA Division II fully funded scholarship sports. Montevallo.edu. Schedule an in-person tour. Great place for your son or daughter to go to school. It is the University of Montevallo. Montevallo.edu.
All right, as Jim has said a number of times, we're doing the show from our homes today because ice has hit and a little bit of snow has hit central Alabama, where we are located in Birmingham. Dane Bradshaw is over in Tuscaloosa, SEC Network, and he's getting ready for the Bama game tonight against Missouri on the SEC Network. I will warn you, Dane, you and Tom Hart are guaranteed to be there. I don't know beyond that how many more people I'll guarantee make it tonight.
We've taken some heat before as a company for having broadcasters call the game from home.
Yeah.
This may have been one of those opportunities. I'm just saying, of all times, that maybe it made more sense to call this one from the basement. But here we are, and glad to be there and pumped because regardless of fan turnout, it's going to be an exciting game with 2 really interesting styles of play.
Can I make a suggestion? And I know Tom Hart's a creative guy, so maybe he can bring it up in your production meeting this morning. But can you get a Zoom of like 64 Alabama fans in a box and just keep popping that screen up and just let them react to plays and something?
I think we could do that. Look, if Tom ever actually made the meetings, then I'm sure he would suggest that. So, but we'll get it to him.
Hey, we know with Nate Oates, the offense is always going to be great and dynamic, but it looked for a while like they were going to have some serious issues defensively. Do you think those have been righted over the last 3 games?
I think a little bit. I probably like you guys. I learned a lot of what Grant Nelson can do in the post. I mean, what he did against Tolu Smith, arguably the most physical big man in the SEC. And if you needed proof of that, what he did the previous game against Tennessee, who's known to be such a physical, big-time defense. And Grant Nelson held his own. They don't win that game without his post play at the 5. And what I like there as well is I know the question's about defense, but if Grant Nelson can hold his own defensively, all of a sudden, man, he is tough as a 5 on the offensive end. And then Ryland Griffin maybe moving to that 4 spot. All of a sudden, those 2 guys get way more athletic for their position than when they're the 3 and the 4. And so I'm not saying you can play that way for 40 straight minutes because I still think you need just a little bit of an enforcer and physicality. But, man, he really held his own, did Grant Nelson. And so I think other guys as well kind of learning guarding the ball, not getting beat off the dribble more often. And I think it's human nature, too. When your offense is so good, when you get scored on, it just hurts a little less. It's like, well, we'll go back. We can get it back real quick. And I think Nate Oates has always been really good at trying to stress to his teams, like, look, I'm a numbers guy, and we got to be, to win it, to get to a Final Four, even better. But at Buffalo, they're always kind of in that top 30 offense and defense, just one of those having that balance. So they're getting there.
Dane Bradshaw is with us. He will have the game tonight. He's on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. Not that Mark Sears was bad last year by any stretch of the imagination, but he's playing SEC Player of the Year level right now. What have you seen different in his game?
Gosh, he's phenomenal, man. He and it's funny because I was watching some of the Missouri-Bama game where they played in the SEC semifinals last year, and I was just laughing like, man, what a difference, less than a year makes. Shawn East from Missouri, probably the second most improved player behind Sears. But you see these guys out there, last March, and they were just role players and doing a good job. But I never imagined they would take this type of step up. And for Mark Sears, you know what he can do from three. You know what he can do when they get him in the ball screen stuff. And he's so fast. He can go in there off of 1 foot. But I think the part that really separates him from other scoring guards is not that he can get to the lane, not that he can shoot the threes and ball screen, but when needed, he can go off 2 feet in the lane, be super physical, and just throw his shoulder into you. He gets to the free throw line about 6 times a game. And at his size, and to shoot the type of shots that he shoots with a lot of freedom, to be hitting at a clip of 55% is just absolutely amazing. I talked to one SEC coach earlier this week about him. He's like, our staff's sitting around like, man, this guy might be a pro. And once you start seeing the consistency that he does, and I started looking up 6'1" guards in the NBA, there's a lot of comps out there. Like if those guys can do it, why can't Mark Sears? And he's playing, and you absolutely know his work ethics there, or the big jump from year to year wouldn't have happened.
I'm interested because I don't think a lot of Alabama fans really know what they have in this team right now because of the tough schedule and the losses that stacked up there for a moment. Where do you slot in Alabama? How good is this team, in your opinion, compared to, say, an Auburn and other SEC teams like Tennessee?
I think they're right there. I'm not just saying that because I'm on the show with you guys, but I've done some other regional shows here recently, and they say, all right, so you got Tennessee, Kentucky, Auburn, who else? I'm like, it's hard for me not to have Alabama in that mix, because the only reason they're not in that mix is because of what they did to themselves with the toughest schedule possible. And yeah, they didn't win those games, but you think any of those other 3 teams want to face Alabama? I don't think they do. And as you guys started the show with, if their defense can catch up just a little bit with their offense, doesn't have to be quite as elite, but not put so much pressure on their offense, that's the next step. And I think you're starting to see that those challenge non-conference games, despite coming up short, paying off as they hit their stride in SEC play. And of course, this team, I don't think they were disappointed. I don't think they ever lost confidence. And so for that to start to pay off, once you see an Alabama team with even greater confidence and swagger, I do. I think they're absolutely right there. And as good as Kentucky is, Kentucky's kryptonite a little bit is ball pressure defense. I mean, they're getting beat off the bounce some. A&M's a hard place to win, of course, but Kentucky has a lot of style points similar to Alabama on the offensive end, but can they defend? And then you look at Tennessee, where you know what you got defensively, but Jekyll and Hyde on offense. So not a lot of separation 1 through 4 of those teams.
If you had to have one of these teams, though, play for your life, your tournament life right now, because I think it might be the Auburn Tigers. I don't know. But if you had to have one, who would it be?
Boy, great question. Oh, man, I would slightly favor Tennessee. And I like the and going back to Auburn, though, I don't even know that Bruce Pearl was totally sure about his Auburn team and defense until they hit conference play. It was like, all right, we've beaten some good mid-major teams, but when the athleticism gets better, can we hold our own? And it's not just who they're beating, but how they're beating them. I mean, they're blowing teams out. And so, but the only thing, the edge I give to Tennessee is because their defense has been so good and reliable, even though they hadn't put 40 minutes together very well, is the kid Dalton Connect, man. I mean, when you get to March and you just got to have somebody go get you a bucket and put the team on their back. Dalton Connect, the Northern Colorado transfer, guys, in 4 road games, he's averaging 31 points. Like he plays his best against the best, back against the wall. And so when you start to look at star power, that's where to me, the tiebreaker is Dalton Connect right now to go with Tennessee's defense.
I think I would have said, let's switch it to golf and give me John Rahm. I don't think I would have trusted any basketball team. Too much parity.
Yeah.
I'd have gone to Rahm. Hey, I'm asking, I'm looking at our chat over here and people are ask him about Arkansas, ask him about Musselman. I'll ask you about that, man. This Arkansas team, I thought the roster was made to be in the conversation with the guys you've talked about already. What's wrong with Arkansas? What's happening there to Muss?
Wow. And look, in years past, they've typically been late bloomers. They'll have some head-scratching losses November, December, sometimes even early in conference play. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but It was kind of a what's wrong with Arkansas. And to make matters worse, Vanderbilt went in to Fayetteville and Bud Walton Arena and got a win. But then Muss seems to make a tweak to the lineup, or he shortens the rotation. He usually is kind of a seven-man rotation, and they figure it out and get on a streak. This year does seem to be different than those years. I don't know if it's just I'd point to maybe some of it being a little bit more a lack of talent. Anthony Black last year was such an amazing freshman that could get to the basket, get to the free throw line. But right now, it's getting a little bit later in the season than you're accustomed to for Eric Musselman's teams to still be figuring out. So there's panic mode on my end for sure. With that said, if you're an Arkansas fan, the thing that does give you hope is that these guys do tend to figure it out. But man, they got a long way to go. The best thing that can happen though is league play, because you got a lot of quad one opportunities, and the worst thing that can happen to you is league play, because you got a lot of quad one opportunities where you can all of a sudden be 1-7 and trying to figure out maybe we should redshirt this guy, that guy before it's too late.
Dane Bradshaw for a few more moments, SEC Network. He's with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. He and Tom Hart on the Bama game tonight against Missouri over in Tuscaloosa. I know Chris Beard can coach. Has he baited us in a little bit early? Is this team really, I think they're 22nd in the most recent poll, as Stephen Pearl told us earlier. You can ignore the AP poll, though. But has he baited us in a little bit with this start that Ole Miss has had? They've only lost one game this year. It was to Tennessee.
Yeah, no, I'm all in on Ole Miss. I think they're going to be an NCAA tournament team. That doesn't mean that I think they're going to win the league or be in the top 4 or 5, but I think they're going to more than hold their own. They lead the league in 3-point percentage, so that's been a huge key to their success. Matthew Morrell is playing with a renewed confidence and becoming the player everybody thought he could be around the league. Alan Flanagan obviously transferred from Auburn, playing with some confidence. And both those guys, what they have in common is they weren't really themselves last year, either coming off an Achilles injury or nursing a knee injury. Now they got a little pop to their game. And of course, Ole Miss has tremendous shot blocking. They're tops in the country there with 7'5". Sharp, and then Cisse comes off the bench at 7 feet. So they are good. And I had that Tennessee Ole Miss game where they really got smacked. That was their first loss of the season, but I thought it spoke more to how good Tennessee can be when they play at their best than Ole Miss not being for real, because Chris Beard wins everywhere he goes. He was my preseason SEC Coach of the Year because I didn't think the cupboard was bare down there, and the guys that were returning were not only hungry, but they've been well coached by Kermit Davis. They just hadn't experienced enough winning. And I think you're starting to see that pay off.
Dane, I wanted to ask you, I know how Tom Hart likes to dress, man. He spends a lot of money on clothes. Who's more likely to be most upset of your broadcast partners if you guys started dressing more like Bruce Pearl for the broadcast and less like Buzz Williams?
Yeah, Tom does dress well, but a secret is he doesn't take the tag off either. So that's why you see him with the new one each time. I think he might be returning things. So, no, yeah, it's and it's funny. I talked to Bruce Pearl before one of the games. It was a non-conference game. I think it was Penn, and he was walking in the same time I was. It's like, how you enjoying life without having to wear a suit? And no lie, he was like, I'm telling you, I think this is going to give me an extra 3 to 5 years of coaching. Just being able to breathe right here. He was like, I'm telling you, he was like, as I'm having to button this thing up and I'm just stressed, I'm screaming, I'm a maniac, being able to just breathe and not sweat through every single thing. I'm so much more free on the sidelines. So when it comes to the wardrobe attire, I can see why some guys like Buzz Williams and others that have such invested, and Jerry Stackhouse, he's not downgrading the wardrobe for anybody, but there's some investment there that I could see some people wanting to still walk the sidelines with.
Have you ever seen somebody sweat as much as Bruce Pearl back in the day?
No, I hadn't. And sometimes it could be based on the arena. We went down to Gainesville, Florida, and it I don't know if viral was really the term back then, but it was certainly all over Sports Center, where the Aquatic Center was right. It was really in the same arena as the basketball gym. So it was hot and humid, and the intensity was high, and he had a gray suit on, and man, he was just lathered up, sweating through that entire thing. So that was fun. It was good PR.
We did it has probably been expunged from the SEC Network site, but we did an Auburn game for SEC Network Plus earlier this year up in Huntsville. And the floor's over the ice. You know, there's a hockey arena there in Huntsville. Yeah. The floor's over the ice, and we froze. I mean, it's the exact opposite if you get one of those deals.
I was there for a game once before as well. I think it might have been I forget who it was. It was probably, well, I'm sure it was Auburn and maybe Belmont, or Lipscomb. But yeah, I know it. It's those conditions are real. And so, yeah, when we play in a hot, humid arena, all of a sudden guys that you hadn't seen dunk at all they're loose and getting up and ready to go and all that. But yeah, there's some places that are more favorable to play than others. I'd rather be hot in a humid environment than what you described in the cold, though.
Oh, I bet your broadcast from Huntsville did not have the Huntsville mayor on the broadcast, though.
Oh, we couldn't get him. No.
Yeah.
We did.
He's in demand, my friend.
Yeah, we got him.
We spared no expense, man.
That's right. We got him. Big time for us. All right, Dane tonight with Tom Hart there at Coleman Coliseum. 6 o'clock tip for Bama, Missouri on the SEC Network. Watch them there. Thank you very much for the time, Dane. Enjoy the call.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Stay safe.
All right, buddy. You too. Take care. Dane's trouble's only beginning. He's got to get from Tuscaloosa to Birmingham to fly home at some point, I would assume. So he may spend a little time in T-Town there. Bama, 2-touchdown favorite in that one, about a 14.5-point favorite.
I've got sun beaming in to my sports room right now. How's there no ice on the roads?
Because your problem, Jim, is the temperature is in the teens right now. That sun ain't gonna melt it if it's below freezing.
But you're telling me that sun on black pavement, even if it's below freezing, it's not going to melt it?
I am telling you that.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you how bad it is out there right now. Our buddy C. Stu left at about 8:45. An hour and a half later, he's still not home, and I think he's probably 10 miles from here.
Yeah, not great.
I don't buy it. I think this is like what's that show I was watching on Apple TV, Silo, where you guys are telling me it's bad outside, but I don't buy it. I think you're just selling me a bunch.
It's
yeah, go for a spin.
Yeah. You want to drive? Well, Lance and I will take over the next segment. You make it up to the studio, and you can do the rest of the show from there.
Maggie will tell you, I almost left to go to the studio this morning. I was like, when there was some debate on what we were doing before Brown came with the final word, I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and go on in. I'm going to do my radio hit from in there, just make it a normal morning, pick up some coffee for me and Forrester on the way in, and just go do it. And I ended up bailing out of that plan. She talked me off the ledge. Good wife in that situation. Hey, our friends at Legacy can talk you off a financial ledge too. Like if you got credit card debt, okay, you're in a new year right now. So let's talk about a transfer from high interest credit cards to the Legacy credit card. You can get all the details you want online at legacycreditunion.com. But here's what you need to know. First, there's no balance transfer fees. There's no annual fee. And for all that money you transfer over, it's only 2.99% annual percentage rate for the first 6 months. And the credit card rate's a low rate too, just 8.90% APR. It's all at Legacy. Get all the details and find out everything you need to know about APR, the annual percentage rate, right there at legacycreditunion.com, legacycreditunion.com. Check out the balance transfers. They've also got engaged checking, 9 greater Birmingham area locations for Legacy. And again, federally insured by the NCUA, legacycreditunion.com. And also by our friends there at Hemphill LT. Tell us again about Hemphill. As you get ready to do that, did you hear that familiar sound, Brown? It took us back to yesterday. I thought I heard dog and bone up on the main floor. Was that what that was?
I remember that.
I will tell you, man, I love my house, but they did the worst job on sound and insulation. So like my bedroom is freezing cold. The bathroom's even worse. And you can hear sounds throughout this. Like last night when I went to bed, C. Stu was watching Heat. He's never seen the great Michael Mann 1995 classic. After the game, I watched like the first hour, and it's like almost a 3-hour movie. And I was like, I'm shutting it down. But all I heard was assault rifles and freaking just explosions all night long. So yeah, the dog bones and their big ass bones from Hollywood Feed, they're getting dropped all over the place right now. 205.
The show's brought to you by Hemphill and Hollywood Feed.
205-229-2090. Adam, Chad, Andrew, the number that I actually had to call yesterday for some plumbing situation for all of your plumbing, heating, and cooling needs. Hard to stop a train. Call them today. Tell them the next round sent you. For more information, hemphillservices.com.
Okay. The chat room wants me to tell you snow can melt due, or the ice can melt due to radiation, but it is never getting above freezing. So it's just going to freeze right back as the sun goes down. But feel free to take off if you want to.
Okay, so you're telling me the chat room was siding with Jimmy Doppler here?
Yeah, and thought I wouldn't read it because I don't want to be wrong, but I'm here reading it. Now, here's what you get. I drove the roads of Birmingham. Everything's fine. The very next one is I drove over Double Oak Mountain. It's deadly. So who knows? Who knows where you're going to go?
Yeah, you, by the way, would have to travel over Double Oak Mountain.
Well, down it. I just got to come down it.
Yeah, and then up it.
I just got to get down it.
Yeah, and then our beautiful Blue Lake Center is on top of a slick hill that is so slick that they have a permanent sign up, even in July, that says "Caution, slick road," just for any moisture at all. Like they're watering the flowers in July. And you can do a 360 on there, which is why we're safely at home today. And we're doing it for you. It's not for us, because I guarantee you that at least 66% of the show loves to be in that studio and not in this setup right now. And I would say it's even higher than that, maybe even 100%.
But it's nostalgic, man. This is me and Brown. We grinded. How many days were we down here?
Yeah. Dunaway, tell me, how many days were in Lance's basement doing the show?
I can't remember. I think it was 377, wasn't it?
Something like that.
Yeah, it was insane back during the pandemic. But thank God, because it birthed what we have right here. Brown, I want you, as I tell you about Precision, to give us an update, because you're good at putting a lot of stuff into a capsule of where we are for the Alabama fans as we reset college football here at 10:20 Central Time, on what's going on with the new defensive coordinator, that coaching staff, the portal, the roster, and we'll get back into that, and then everything else that's going on. But first, our friends at Precision Sports Medicine and Orthopedics want to remind you that in 2024, it's a new time to find a doctor that will help you, whether you've tweaked a shoulder, you pulled a muscle in your back, you've screwed up your knee, you got chronic pain in a joint or something. They're there to help you out with Precision Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. 205-512-3885, 512-3885. Listen, let 2024 be the year Precision Sports Medicine and Orthopedics gets your life back on track. Orthopedic care is better together. Find your provider today, 205-512-3885, or visit precisionsportsortho.com/2024. That's precisionsportsortho.com/2024. Brownie?
By the way, just a hazard of doing the show at the house. You saw Lance's dogs earlier. Right in the middle of Dane Bradshaw's interview, my dog threw up over here. So I had to go clean that up. So I apologize for exiting the shot there. But I think he's fine. He probably just ate some M&Ms. Hey, so Kane Womack, am I right, Dunaway?
Womack is the way I'm going.
All right, Kane Womack, confirmed by his
Okay, Brown, I lost your audio there. Is that just me?
Yeah, no, I lost him too.
Okay. Wow, Brown's audio totally good. Keep moving your lips, though. This is like, not working.
No, I was just moving my lips. I wasn't
okay.
talking.
He's back. There we go.
Leaving the University of South Alabama. He has resigned from South Alabama officially today. South Alabama has made that official. Chris Lowe, the first to report that he was in negotiations last night to be Alabama's defensive coordinator. And I think it makes sense now. Well, first of all, we had kind of, this word had started percolating over the weekend. We discussed it on the show without mentioning Coach Womack yesterday. A lot of people thought we were hinting at John Summerall leaving Tulane and coming back. We were not. We were talking about Kane Womack until we accidentally tipped our hand there. It's an interesting move for Kalen DeBoer, obviously a guy he is comfortable with. There was an interview, as many people have reported, with Travaris Robinson, who was, some believe, the actual defensive coordinator, de facto defensive coordinator this year for Alabama, along with Kevin Steele. That obviously did not work out. He is now at Georgia, and Kane Womack will be the defensive coordinator at Alabama. He and Kalen DeBoer was offensive coordinator for Tom Allen at Indiana, and Kane Womack was the defensive coordinator. Womack was the defensive coordinator at the time. So they are very, very comfortable with one another. That one good year, they were a top 20 defense. I was looking at his scoring defense done away in his last 2 years at South Alabama. They've been top 30 in scoring defense at South Alabama. So it's kind of, it's kind of his thing. And Lance, I know you probably watch South a lot because of lanceslock.com more than most. That was kind of their thing. They weren't a dynamic offensive team, but they played really good defense.
Yeah, and you go back to that 2020 year where he was a Broyles Award finalist, Kane Womack was, and that was a team that forced 20 turnovers. So it's all about being aggressive. It's about forcing those turnovers. And yeah, look, I mean, they went from 10 wins to 7 wins, still a really good year for South Alabama and the Jags, but it was still one of the better defensive units in college football.
And Dunaway, I'll say, a lot of the football people say this is a guy that really his base defense is a 4-2-5. So that will tell you need a lot of what if you're going to run a 4-2-5.
You're going to need a lot of DBs and a lot of defensive linemen,
which makes Caleb Downs and Amos, if he is in fact in the portal, as I guess Matt Zenitz reported or 24/7 reported. It makes keeping those guys critical. I mean, if that's the style of football he wants to run, you're going to need some quality defensive backs back there. So I do find that interesting. And also, it makes a whole lot of sense why Kalen DeBoer said in his introductory news conference that his belief is you hire coordinators and then you build around those guys. You let coordinators build around guys they're comfortable working with. So it makes sense why you've seen the offensive guys announced, primarily Washington guys. Got a lot of Washington flavor in that deal. But you've, other than Freddie Roach, seen very few defensive names. And I would imagine that defensive staff starts taking shape very, very quickly now that you got your coordinator in place.
Yeah. Now here's just a 24/7 update, 247sports.com in their portal that they keep track of. Trey Amos, according to them, entered the portal yesterday. And some of you were beating me up on Twitter or X or Twix, whatever you want to call it, that I was wringing my hands over a 3-star guy in the portal. But you guys saw Trey Amos play this year. Trey Amos, forget what he was rated star-wise. The guy came in and was locked down, even when he had to come in the SEC championship game because of injury. I thought the guy would be a starter this year. To me, that's a loss if he doesn't come back to Bama. He hasn't picked a place yet. Amari Niblack went in yesterday, a 4-star tight end. He hasn't picked a place yet. To me, bigger threat at catching the ball than he is as a blocker and a tight end. I don't know what he will fit into the new Ryan Grubb system or not. Sean Murphy, linebacker, into Florida State earlier this week. So he's one of 5 Alabama players now at Florida State. Antonio Kite, a 4-star corner in the portal. Des Ricks, a 4-star corner in the portal. Isaiah Bond, his story, 5-star wide receiver, Alabama to Texas. Kendrick Blackshear, a 3-star linebacker. He's in the portal. And then the other guys all made their decisions before Nick Saban did his retirement. So they were going to be in the portal regardless. So that's just where we are sitting here today. And it feels to me like if you're an Alabama fan, you're waiting to see what Caleb Downs is going to do. And I will just point out that Caleb Downs' 2 biggest recruiters at Alabama that got him to sign with Alabama. One of them is Travaris Robinson, T-Rob, who's at Georgia now, and he was still in play to come back to Alabama as late as yesterday morning, but finally decided to stick with his move to Georgia. And the other one, interesting enough, Charles Kelly, who's the co-defensive coordinator now at Auburn. So those were his 2 top recruiters that got him to commit to Alabama. So to me, that's a big guy you're watching right now to see if Caleb's all in on the DeBoer and Womack side of the ball, or if he indeed is going to shop and go to the portal.
I want to go back to Niblack because, Lance, I know you watched a lot of Washington football this year. You're a big fan of DeBoer even before he got the Bama job and what he was doing there. Jack West over the last 2 years, both years, was 4th in receiving for Washington. And by the way, that's a good receiving corps to be 4th in that receiving corps as a tight end. 77 catches, 5 touchdowns over the last 2 years. He utilized the tight end quite a bit, Ryan Grubb did.
Yeah, and that was, and Westover was really good in the postseason. I mean, going back to the Oregon Pac-12 championship game and then what they were able to do against Texas. Yeah, I think it's a little misleading on this Kalen DeBoer offense. Everybody thinks it's just downfield, and you've got the 3 1,000-yard guys in McMillan, Polk, and Odunze. But Westover was a big part of it. And running the football, I mean, really, when they were at their best offensively, it was the final 5 games of the regular season and into the postseason, going into the national championship game, where Dylan Johnson was really running the football. I mean, it's more of a balanced offense than people think.
Yeah, I agree with you. And speaking of that, Washington, since the DeBoer announcement that he's coming to Alabama, has had actually more people hit the portal than Alabama has. That includes 4-star quarterback Austin Mack, who is in the portal. See where he ends up going. Nate Kalepo, a 4-star inside offensive lineman, guy that maybe could fit in at an SEC school, is in the portal. Jabbar Muhammad, cornerback, could have some use for him. 4-star guy is in the portal. A couple of other 3-star guys. And then Will Rogers, who's a 4-star quarterback, also in the portal. And there's some people keeping an eye on him. And Asa Turner, another 4-star safety, who is in the portal. All that happened after DeBoer had been announced at Alabama. So a few 4-star guys from that Washington team that played for a national championship. So that is one thing that's going on, Brownie, with the portal news out there.
So S. Hobson says, go over South Alabama's schedule this year. Their defense was horrible. They were 3rd in the Sun Belt in scoring defense, and gave up 21 points per game this year. I would not call that horrible. I know, that can be affected by a lot of things. One game you give up 30, one game you don't give up any, right? So 21 points per game is where they were. And I was trying to find just some other stats like total defense and things like that. But 3rd in the Sun Belt this year with 21 points per game is where you would find that South Alabama defense this year. And I'll tell you where they were really good. Tell you where that South Alabama defense was really good was in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And they probably, Lance, defended Oklahoma State ultimately about as well as anybody did all season.
Yeah, it's still one of the more amazing turnarounds with how broken, and a lot of it had to do with that South Alabama defense, how broken Oklahoma State was after just getting skull drug in Stillwater and then able to bounce back and ultimately play for the Big 12 championship game. But yeah, I mean, South Alabama was lights out. And I'll tell you this, on that Saturday at Stillwater, if you only give up 21 points per game with a Kalen DeBoer offense, you're going to win 95% of your games.
I would agree with that. Yeah, with 21.
Yeah. So I think even if you could say right now to Alabama fans, hey, this defense is going to give up 21 points per game next year, I think you would take that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting with the portal there. I got a question. This is our Way to Wellness question of the day. And it was the question I got this morning on the Dusty and Danny show on Sirius XM. So I'll just ask it to you. And I'll at the end tell you how I answered it. But you guys are going to agree with what I answered, I'm sure. Way to Wellness, your journey to healthy living. If you're sitting here trying to jumpstart weight loss here on January the 16th, it's easy to do. You just jump on this website, aplanforme.com. aplanforme.com. That takes you to the Way to Wellness website, and you'll find out what Leslie and her board certified team have to offer to you. That includes different meal plans if you want, or some protein bars to fill in the gaps between meals, just some lessons about eating, somebody to be accountable with you about how you eat. Whatever you're looking for, your journey is different. There's no cookie cutter plan. They'll take care of you. The website's aplanforme.com, aplanforme.com. And as a next round viewer, here's what you get. No contracts. You can stop anytime you want. No sign-up fees. And the first consultation is absolutely free. So there's no out-of-pocket money. So check it out. It is Way to Wellness, your journey to healthy living there. The question I got asked, I think it was by Cannell, and it was, what is the expectations for Kalen DeBoer next year? And I would love to hear your answer, because I gave him one, and I think he thought it was laughable. But go ahead, you go first.
I think it's a national championship. I mean, why would anything so you're taking over a program that lost in overtime to the eventual national champion, and you're inheriting a coach that played for the national championship with a better roster now. So why would the expectation not be a national championship? Anything short of a playoff appearance, there are going to be so many people second doubting this hire from Greg Byrne. So or a playoff is kind of the minimum. That's kind of the floor. And then obviously I think the expectation is we make a deep run here and we ultimately win a national championship.
I was going to say the minimum acceptable outcome for Alabama fans would be 10-2 in the college football playoff. And even then some of that depends on who the two are, especially if one of them is Auburn at home. That becomes a more magnified loss because it's your rival. But I think the minimum expectation by Alabama fans would be 10-2 in the college football playoff. And 10-2 would get you in the college football playoff. In years past at 10-2, you're probably just in the Sugar Bowl or the Cotton Bowl, the Orange Bowl. You're not in the playoff. Now you're to at least be in the playoff. You probably got a road game. at 10-2, unless it's an incredible 10-2. But even still, you're in the college football playoff. But to me, that's the minimum. And even then, so let's say you make the college football playoff. What do you guys think would be an outcome where Alabama fans could stomach it at that point? I mean, is it only national championship where you're like,
I answered it. I answered it exactly like you guys did. The expectation is a national championship. I mean, that's just the expectation. But to me, the floor is making the 12-team college football playoff, because Alabama fans, love them or hate them, depending on where you are. They have been eating the best of the best food. They've been dining in the 5-star restaurant of college football, and that's not gonna change. So 10-2 or above. I mean, you go back to any of the Saban bad years, 3 losses are the bad years since 2008. So you don't expect that to change. That's why the roster movement is so big, because if the roster had not changed, they're going to be 1-2 with Georgia coming into the year. With the roster changes, we'll see where they land, but I don't think anybody's expecting them to be outside of the top 10 in the preseason. So that's your expectations, right?
Yeah, I don't think anything changes. I really don't. And look, it's going to be impossible to replicate what Saban was able to do, but I mean, if DeBoer can do what he did at Washington, why would you not expect that? And I would be interested to hear how Cannell handled your answer.
Yeah, I've got the chat room to our answer. What did Cannell say to yours?
Cannell laughed and says, "That's unbelievable." And it said something else that I think Dusty was talking over him a little bit there, but it was it was fair. It was laughing because, only at Alabama can you lose some people in the portal, get a brand new coach, and the expectations would be a national championship. And I think they may have said, Kalen DeBoer knew what he was getting into when he took this job. But I will tell you, this may seem stupid, but big news yesterday that the sports medicine and the training staff was kept together in Tuscaloosa. And if you don't connect the dots, David Ballou and company that started the whole sports medicine wing at the University of Alabama, that basically they were hired and told to design a state-of-the-art sports medicine facility, and Nick Saban had it built. And Jeff Allen, who has been at Tuscaloosa before Nick Saban and is staying there to be the head trainer, what those guys created over there, Ballou and Jeff Allen, but Ballou specifically building out that sports medicine, is state-of-the-art. And when you're talking about taking an elite athlete, and getting him to the NFL, his biggest asset, his biggest thing he has in his life is his health, his training, and the rehabilitation. And to keep David Ballou, who, by the way, was hired to Alabama from where? Indiana, where DeBoer and Womack. Yeah. So they Ballou and company came in to design that sports medicine thing before DeBoer and Womack are here, and now the band's all back together. That is huge on the recruiting trail. I don't know if it'll help keep the athletes there, but when they're out selling to elite recruits, a lot of recruits come to Tuscaloosa because what they offer in sports training, sports medicine, sports development, and just staying healthy.
Yeah, that was huge. And, Ellis Ponder, too. Ellis is the football operations guy that Nick Saban trusted that guy implicitly. And that guy was also a guy Nick Saban would call anytime anything didn't work exactly right. Ellis's phone would ring. So that was pretty big keeping him around, too. So, Lance, I would agree. I mean, all those behind the scenes guys that you don't maybe recognize names, wouldn't recognize their face, that stuff was working pretty well. If you're Kalen DeBoer, why go recreate it if it was working well to begin with, right?
Yeah, I thought the Brandon Marcello tweet, somebody, it might have been one of you two, shared it with the group last night, but 13 hours ago, what if I told you the night Alabama won its last national title, that in 3 years, the Indiana offensive and defensive coordinators would take over for Nick Saban?
That's crazy.
In the times, man, that's nuts. But that's where we are right now.
Let's go ahead, Brownie.
Well, I was just going to give you some chat room reaction on expectations for Alabama. Steven says playoff. Bama Banana says the roster is decimated. Is decimated a fair word for you guys?
Not yet. Check with me if Caleb Downs leaves.
One guy, huh? Grind says 9-3 should be considered an okay season. 10-2 would be a great season. Keith says playoff. Pritch Law says give me a break, LT, on the national championship comment. Grind says bro said national championship. Laughy face. Laughing face. Daniel says transfers, LT, transfers. AK says
look, transfers going out, but you can also, one of the reasons Washington was so successful was because of their quarterback who came in via portal. So you're going to lose some guys, but I fully expect DeBoer knows what he's doing in the portal. So I think he's going to be able to utilize it. I think he's going to be able to, we'll see if the loss and the additions, if they balance out. I mean, that's yet to be decided. We'll know over the next couple of weeks.
AK says it depends on who all we keep, but at this point, I agree. We are a championship contender still. Keith says Natty and a 12 team is going to be all caps hard, but it's hard for everybody. It's hard for one team. It's hard for everybody. All these guys have got to build chemistry with a new staff, which is important. That is true. Paul says 10-2 next year. I'll take that. Kool-Aid says, Mr. Kool-Aid Maker says you just lost half your defense with no replacements. It goes on and on and on, but I think that is kind of a summary of what people feel about that.
Yeah, I was talking to Little T last night about maybe building a graphic out of players who were on the two deep for Alabama's offense and defense at the Rose Bowl game. And then before the Saban retirement, removing the players who left to graduation or early to the NFL. And then after the Saban retirement, those players that have left via the portal, and just see how that two deep disappeared in Tuscaloosa. I have not done it yet, and I don't know if we're going to do it in an animated form or not, but I'll scribble it out on paper one day just to see how much the top 22 on each side of the ball looks totally different than the team that suited up out there in Pasadena.
Yeah, but we've seen that before. We've seen the attrition from Nick Saban, Kirby Smart teams. I mean, how many did Kirby lose to the draft last year or the year before? Wasn't it 14?
Yeah.
But say you lose 14 to the draft. Say you lost 14 to the portal, and now you've lost 14 more to the portal that were actually on your 22. I mean, now that's different, than just the normal year. It's these extra players that are leaving post, not the ones that were going to the portal anyway if Nick had stayed here. It's these ones that are going to leave after the announcement that will do the most damage to Alabama. But you're right. Whether it's from Washington right now or after spring football, there will be a chance to import some talent down the road. And as Paul says, the new commitments that have came in. And that was a question earlier because they were talking, again, Dusty and Danny, they were like, do they need to go get a quarterback? Because of Jalen Milroe, do they need some help in the quarterback room? And I was like, guys, I don't know if you're paying attention, but one of the best, if not the best, high school quarterbacks in Julian Sayin enrolled on January 10th. Now, later that afternoon, the greatest coach of all time, also on the same campus he showed up at, was announced his retirement. But as far as I know, Julian Sayin is staying. Sayin is staying right now. So that's a pretty good quarterback room. In fact, wouldn't surprise me if you got a new coach, if there's a little bit of a quarterback competition in the spring between Milroe and Julian Sayin.
Well, and we still don't know the destination of Will Rogers, do we?
Nope.
No.
I mean, I don't know if Alabama fans would be excited about that. That's one of those where you just have to say, boy, I trust Kalen DeBoer here, because Alabama fans saw him really at his worst. I mean, there are probably some other fan bases that are like, yeah, I'd take Will Rogers because they saw him play better. But every time he played Alabama lands, it was an unmitigated disaster just about. I mean, that was.
But I would say that for the majority of now, there was the one-off or the some-offs of guys having career games against Nick Saban defenses. But, those were the obvious one every 2 or 3 years a guy was having that. And it wasn't a consistent thing.
Dunaway, I sense we need a commercial here. There's a common thread in the chat room that I wanted to bring up too in relation to transfers.
Yeah, let me tell you about Storm Restoration Roofing. We'll make it the Storm Restoration Roofing chat room over there, and we'll get some comments from you guys into the show, and then we'll get 4 downs from LT. Again, if you're watching the show for the first time, this is not a normal setup. We are usually in a beautiful, huge studio and platform and a lot more voices on the air, but because of winter weather, for the safety of our Disrupt the Media crew, we are remote today, and we're thankful to be going virtually commercial-free, no commercial breaks here today. Just our lovely in-show sponsors today, and we appreciate the fine folks like Storm Restoration Roofing bringing you the show today. Greg from Pell City. If you can look him up on Facebook, or you can call his cell number 205-542-3531, 542-3531. Listen, one thing you get with Greg from Pell City is a free no-cost roof inspection. No cost, no obligation, and that sounds too good to be true. And for a lot of companies, it is, but not for Greg from Pell City. So many people tell us, man, Greg came out, free no-cost roof inspection. He'd get up there. I expected to get into my pocket some way or another, and he gets up there. He actually maybe sometimes does a couple of easy repairs up there and never charges you for it. He's just a guy that will take care of you the best he can. Now, sometimes you'll have something that's so broken up there that he'll be like, hey, we need to do this or we need to do that, and you're not obligated to use him. But once you meet Greg, I promise you he'll be the guy you'll use because he's that trustworthy. Whether you're replacing a roof, whether you have some storm damage, or whether you just need that free no-cost roof inspection, 205-542-3531, or just look him up on Facebook, Greg from Pell City and Storm Restoration Roofing. Brown?
Hey, Brown, real quick.
So,
No,
far away.
Well, I was just going to say, I think we're sleeping on Will Rogers a little bit. Like, I don't know if he goes to Bama or not, but I do believe Kalen DeBoer can evaluate quarterbacks as good as anybody right now in college football. And 2020 was a broken year, obviously with COVID and everything. And then this past year, Will Rogers didn't start every game, battled some injuries. But if you look at the in-between seasons of 21 and 22, he had a combined 71 touchdown passes, 17 interceptions, completed over 70% of his throws, and averaged about 4,300 yards passing in those years. So I thought Penix had one really good year at Indiana, but I thought overall Will Rogers was a better quarterback at Mississippi State than Penix was at Indiana. Now, I don't know where Will Rogers ends up, but I think this is a guy that can have success.
One of the responses, Michael says, Will Rogers feels like Tyler Buckner, basically.
No.
No.
with a bone drop.
Yeah, no. With the it's not the mic drop, the bone drop.
Yeah, I mean Buckner had a sample size of like 4 games, and we've got a lot. And I think Zach said system quarterback, and it was, but it's a different system. But Kalen DeBoer has got his system that's been really successful for quarterbacks.
Preach the Law says if Rogers comes, I am leaving. Alabama fan there.
I will tell you, I'm not as high on Will Rogers being part of this program either, because first off, he doesn't have a lot of eligibility left. So you got Jalen Milroe, who at this moment is still on the roster. If you've got Julian Sayin, I don't know about Lonergan or Simpson or anybody else who is there. I'm just saying that it doesn't seem like a perfect place for Will Rogers to come if he's a one-off.
Yeah. So here's a common thread that is anytime we've talked about transfer portal today and the fact that it opens at places like Washington and Arizona and Alabama, now South Alabama with Kane Womack leaving for 30 days for players to leave. And a lot of people in the chat room are saying, just wait. What would happen if Harbaugh takes the Chargers job? And more on that as far as what's going on with his contract situation coming up. And if indeed, as are some of the rumors, Brian Kelly left LSU to follow him. If you open the Michigan and LSU portals, boy, it'd be kind of crazy the talent that would potentially be available in college football right now.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And you talk about, I mean, right now, Alabama fans are seeing their roster, people just coming after them, as Dunaway described as vultures. But yeah, that would open up a ton of talent.
Hey, listen, I don't blame them. At some point, if you're an Alabama fan, you hope there's some crimson vultures available to go pick over some other dead carcasses on the side of the transfer portal road right there. Slice brings you 4 downs every day. Lunsford and Forrester and company have done such a good job, and Rockstar behind the scenes today. He tells me he actually has the 4 downs, first, second, third, and fourth down sounds ready to go as well. So tell us about Slice, LT. You've got our 4 downs, and we'll do this almost like we're in studio.
Yeah, when I talked about the old school pizza, look, this is the best specialty pizzas out there. They get so creative. I know Brown loves the soul pie that's got the black beans, turnip greens. But the Bajagia brothers, Jeff Bajagia created this concept. His brothers Jason and Chris continue to celebrate the legacy of their late brother. Just a great dude, but just fantastic pizzas. And that old school that I got a hold of for the first time, try it out. Get you a slice and salad once these roads open back up. 4 locations for you. The original Lakeview, Vestavia, Montevallo, Crestline Park, coming soon to Homewood. For more information, slicebirmingham.com.
First down.
Look at
First down.
More wins next year. The Washington Huskies with Jed Fish, or his former team, the Arizona Wildcats, with Brian Brennan, the former San Jose State coach.
Well, I would start Brownie by saying, is Noah Fafita staying at Arizona? Is he going to Washington? Because Delara has left and gone to Texas State, which seemed to be a very early jump from Arizona. I mean, from what I saw from Delara when he was healthy, no offense to Texas State, but there's no way to not be offended when I started off by saying no offense to Texas State, but it just seemed like Delara played better when he was a starter at Arizona than Texas State.
Well, you had TJ Finley, his career was resurrected with the Bobcats. So if you're Delara, maybe you just feel like, hey, I'm going to go there. I'm going to be able to start. It is FBS football, but I would have thought he would have better options than Texas State.
I think I am inclined to go Washington, though. Washington's getting hit hard in the portal, too, and that's not near as good a roster as what Alabama had. So if they lose 20 players in the roster, it's a lot more impactful, or in the portal, it's a lot more impactful on their roster.
They were already replacing quarterback and all those receivers, Brown. I mean, not saying it was a good time for DeBoer to jump, but they did have a nice rebuild that they were going to have to restock going into the Big Ten. And the question to me, though, all those great recruits that were in this together at Arizona, are they going to be in it together with him up at Washington? Are they going to raid the Arizona roster and move up to Washington? I'm going to go Arizona as the answer here.
I think so, too. I mean, remember, Big 12 to Big 10, too, so there's a difference here.
Yeah. Second down.
You know what's crazy about first down is how quick we're hiring replacement coaches now. Nick Saban, it hasn't even been a week since Nick Saban has announced his retirement, and they've already replaced him from Washington. Washington has replaced their coach from Arizona, who's already replaced the Jed Fish, and we're not even a week out. I mean, this has not even been 1 week, and there have already been all those moves made in college football. It's insane how quick it happens now.
Yeah, almost like one agent is almost controlling it all.
More likely upset on Saturday in the NFL, the Texans over the Ravens or the Packers over the 49ers?
I'm going to say the Packers over the 49ers. I think we're watching what is an amazing string of luck from a organization when it comes to quarterbacks. Favre to Rodgers, and this Jordan Love kid, what he has started doing in the final 5-6 weeks of the season has been amazing to me. And though it's a tough road to beat either number one, I really think the best shot of the win is a good game, a great game again from Jordan Love, and a bad game from Brock Purdy.
I'm stewing Brown still because the Rams would have been a slight favorite in Tampa this weekend. And I just can't imagine if Green Bay would have pulled the upset, the Rams would be hosting the NFC Championship game in SoFi.
You know what's amazing about what Jordan Love has done is he's done that without Christian Watson, who might be their best receiver.
Yep.
And now
Romeo Doubs playing great right now. Musgrave's really good tight end, but I agree. Watson was back in the lineup, but he wasn't effective, and you just wonder another week of a rest if he gets more game ready. But I agree with you. I mean, Watson was a stud before he went out.
I think if you go Houston here, you're banking on the fact that C.J. Stroud's too young and inexperienced to know he's supposed to not win that game. And then you're banking on playoff Lamar Jackson, which has not been the best Lamar Jackson, going against D'Amico Ryan's defense. I mean, you could see a path to a victory there for Houston.
Yeah, that's a great point. And Clay Chalkville, I mean, LT, you and I talked a little bit about it. I think it was in the office or maybe at walk-ons this weekend, but Clay Chalkville's Nico Collins is, I mean, the last 3 or 4 weeks, he may be the best receiver in the game.
Yeah, and they're playing with a ton of confidence. And I just don't know what you get. Like, John Harbaugh is obviously a really good coach, but we've seen some really bad Lamar Jackson postseason games. And much like Dallas, I think there is a ton of pressure on this Baltimore team, and especially for Lamar Jackson to play at that MVP level. I think D'Amico's got his team as loose as they can be right now. So CJ's going to go out there slinging around. We'll see what happens. I kind of would lean, just because I believe best team in football is San Francisco. And I think even with a bad game from Brock Purdy, that defense can go out there and absolutely shut down Green Bay. I think the better opportunity of an upset is the Texans.
But can you believe if Green Bay were to shock the world that either likely Detroit would have another playoff game, this one to go to a Super Bowl? How crazy would that stadium be? Or if somehow Tampa Bay shocked Detroit, that Green Bay, Tampa Bay would play 9-8. Tampa Bay would host the NFC Championship game. Wow. There's no way that happens. No way.
Third down.
And Green Bay, Detroit, a divisional game too. Like if that were at Detroit, that's crazy.
In the running for comeback player of the year, Joe Flacco turned 40 today. If I ask you the better Joe career, Joe Flacco, Joe Pesci?
Joe Pesci.
I mean, Flacco, he's in elite company, Lance. Not many guys have quarterbacked in the games he's quarterbacked in the Super Bowls.
Well, in one of the best road postseason quarterbacks of all time. I mean, I'll never forget. You remember when he got behind the coverage at Denver late in that game, took them to the Super Bowl, and absolutely just shocked that crowd. There was no way they could lose that game. And Flacco makes that incredible throw where the defender gets I forgot who the receiver was. It was a kid out of Maryland. Got behind him. Anyway, Flacco was so good on the road. But Pesci, nominated for an Academy Award in 1980 for Raging Bull, won an Academy Award in 90 for Goodfellas. My Cousin Vinny, I would go Pesci.
That's right. My Cousin Vinny, Goodfellas, Casino, all the Godfathers. I mean, he was in everything.
Wasn't in the Godfathers.
Star Wars.
Star Wars. Raiders of the Lost Ark, Shawshank Redemption.
He was R2-D2, wasn't he?
Fourth down.
Dunaway is undefeated on that stuff, man. It's amazing. Joe Pesci, a Godfather?
He wasn't. He looks like he was in all the mob movies.
He was in The Irishman that just recently came out a few years ago. Okay, so Albert Pujols, 45 years old today. Better career. Al Pujols, Al Michaels.
Rockstar's laughing in the chat room at you overpronouncing Goodfellows.
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 I can't say Opelika either. I always say Opelika.
What was my choice? I was still laughing.
Al Pujols or Al Michaels?
Al Michaels, Albert Pujols.
It's Pujols.
I mean, some would say Michael's the best that's ever done it, Dunaway.
No.
Yeah, but I would say,
No.
I mean, some would say that Dunaway, but
Yeah, you can't say some
Who?
wouldn't
Who?
say that.
oh my gosh, he's on one of the most iconic calls in American sports history. In the Winter Olympics in 1980, the guy is still calling games. How many Super Bowls is he calling?
I know. He's been calling the top level ABC stuff for like 40 years now.
Yeah.
How could you-
Right time, right place on Lake Placid. He was also ran calling college football. He was the other crew off of Keith Jackson's
He
crew.
did Monday Night Football. It was the biggest game of the week.
He did. He's not one of the greatest. He could be one of the greatest, but he's not the greatest to ever do it. Meanwhile, Albert Pujols was the greatest first baseman of all time.
Well, I think Albert Pujols is a top 5 guy. I'm talking about any position as far as just swinging it. But boy, I do think it's tight because I'd like to just see Al Michaels' credentials.
Yeah,
And
they're
I know
good.
people don't like him now because of the way these broadcasts have gone with Herb Street. And look, he does seem like a dick.
Dunaway, give me your top 5. Give me your top 5 if Al Michaels.
Of all time, dead or alive?
It doesn't matter. All time.
Well, Keith Jackson was in there for college football.
Okay.
But Keith Jackson didn't have the career that Al Michaels did.
He did not. And I love Keith Jackson. He did
Not
not have
even
Al
close.
Michaels' career.
Well, I mean, Keith Jackson was the first Monday Night Football voice. You know,
Got
got
a
it.
short time. And Michaels took over and had it forever.
Yeah,
and
well,
then
Frank
went to-
Gifford in between there. Yeah,
And then went to Sunday Night Football when Sunday Night Football was the biggest game of the week.
yeah. Keith Jackson. This is for me. I know you guys will, but you know, last night I think I had the best NFL crew last night on my game. Buck and Aikman are so good at what they do
You
together.
can't put Joe Buck
Oh
in
my
front of
God!
Al.
You would not
I
put Joe Buck over Al Michaels.
I put
Dunaway.
Joe Buck over Al Michaels. I'll
Oh,
do it in a
my,
heartbeat.
that's
I
insane.
put Jim Nance over
Run
Al
away, go
Michaels.
take the shit or something.
I'll
Yeah,
put Jim
Dunaway,
Nance.
Joe Buck?
Yes.
I like that crew. I don't have a problem with Joe Buck. It's a very good crew, but he's not in front of Al Michaels. Dunaway.
Joe Buck is. I like watching a Joe Buck game more than I do an
Okay.
Al Michaels game. It's a personal taste. I'm sorry, but I don't like an Al Michaels game better than I do Buck and Aikman. Buck and Aikman are really good. Nance is really good. I don't really love him with Romo, but I like Jim Nance in games.
Joe Buck would not nearly be as good without Troy Aikman, though.
Probably so. It's a combination there.
It's a good combo.
Yeah.
I like their combo. I don't disagree with you. I
Yeah.
enjoy their combo.
Al Michaels, saddled with Chris Collinsworth, who rubs me the wrong way. I think Tirico's really good. Ron
He is
Franklin back in the old ESPN college football
So the
days.
Collinsworth thing, is it like, does Collinsworth have something on the network? Like, I think he does a good job. The voice will grind. But how his kid has got a job is, yeah, I mean,
Ridiculous.
what was the situation there?
He's the lead play-by-play guy for Notre Dame football, Jack Collinsworth. I don't understand
Sean
it at all.
McDonough. I love a Sean McDonough game more than I do Al Michaels games.
Okay, but again, you might like it more, but Al Michaels, much better career.
I mean, he's had a good career, yeah.
But I agree.
I would go.
I would go
Al.
Poole.
I'd go Al Michaels over Albert Pujols. Is it a given that Albert Pujols is the best first baseman ever to play the game?
I
It
mean,
is for me.
Lou Gehrig was pretty good, right?
Ryan Klesko?
I don't think it was Ryan. I mean, I would go Steve Garvey, personal opinion. But no, it's probably Albert Pujols. That's all I got.
Okay, that's 4 Downs brought to you by Slice. Tell us about Slice again.
Yeah, get in, see the Bajalia Brothers. I had the pizza on Friday night, again on Sunday. Fantastic. Local pizza, local ingredients. For more information, jump into one of those 4 locations or slicebirmingham.com.
Maggie, last night we prepared for the ice just in case. So we made a grocery run and we had delicious, whatever you call it, fiesta soup, taco soup, different in each household. So I had a bowl of that last night watching my Buccaneers win a playoff game. Did not expect that to happen ever again. Dick Enberg's a great call, Troy. Dick Enberg back in the day, really good.
And listen, growing up a Dolphins fan, I got a ton of Dick Enberg, and I like him, but he's not Al Michaels. I can't believe you did all of that. Did you ever even say Vin Scully? Did you ever?
Vin Scully, so much better than Al Michaels.
Would agree. Yes. I think he's in the discussion. Some of the people who put in the discussion, I can't believe it.
Vin Scully was like the best play-by-play guy of all time. I think a lot of people would agree with that.
Yeah.
I was just thinking football though, Brent. I wasn't even thinking Al Michaels baseball. I was just going football.
I think Vin Scully did some football.
He did, but I think Al Michaels did more baseball. Again, I'm going to pull this real quick. I'm going to tell you guys what Al Michaels did. And again, he seems like a dick to me, but the guy has done everything.
I mean, Don Criqui. I enjoyed Don Criqui back in the day. Yes, Terry.
I used to get him on the Dolphins games too. Don Criqui, Dick Enberg. Do you remember Bob Trumpy? I used to get a lot of Bob Trumpy and Merlin Olsen. Do you remember those guys?
Oh yeah, Dick Enberg and Merlin, and then Criqui and the other guy you were talking about.
So, what made me a Dolphins fan was the fact that when I was a kid, NBC had the AFC package, and there were no Southern AFC teams. Houston Oilers were the closest to Birmingham, other than Miami. There were no Jacksonville. There was no Titans. So we got on NBC 13 in Birmingham, the NBC affiliate in Birmingham. We got the Dolphins every week. So growing up as a kid, that's all I saw was the Dolphins. So I was just like, I like this Marino guy. He's going to be really good. You know, this when he was a rookie, I'll be a Dolphins fan. So that's how I became a Dolphins fan, because we got a ton of Dolphins. But I got a heroes, Bob Trumpy and Merlin Olsen. I got a lot of those guys doing Dolphins games.
Yeah. By the way, all the Braves announcers were back in the 80s and early 90s. That group was special together. A lot of great broadcasters out there. Al Michaels is one of them, but this whole putting him on this pedestal above everybody else. Come on, Lance.
Did you just compare Al Michaels?
One of the dumber things you've said. The guy is called Kentucky Derbies, Olympics, Wide World of Sports, Super Bowls, World Series, Indianapolis 500. I mean, shit, I don't care about, but high tier stuff, especially back in the 70s and 80s when it was the only game on town.
If Al Michaels was in my backyard, I'd tell him to hold it down.
Hey, you know what I texted Dunaway Saturday? That Saturday Cleveland-Houston Texans game, I used to love Todd Blackledge doing college football. Loved him. And I told Dunaway, I think that's the first time I heard Blackledge do a game all year, because even if I had one of his games on, it was never on the main TV. That guy, he's been wasted going to that Big Ten package.
Yeah. And that could be the thing of the future as well. Back to the Alabama conversation and all that. LT, a couple of your great sponsors, Dr. B and Harbin's. We'll start with Dr. B, and then we'll get out to your backyard there. Start at the top and work your way to your backyard there.
Yeah, our friend Dr. B, not only has the hair more than doubled in thickness, he's now offering the Sensus Transdermal Infuser, which I got a few months ago. This enables Dr. B to get various medicines and therapies into the scalp where the hair follicles are without using any injections. This is revolutionary, as Dr. Beckenstein can pinpoint delivery of a patient's genetically specific products without any needles. T3hair.net, 205-319-0316. It's a non-invasive treatment. I'm doing it 3 times a week, 30 minutes each time on the couch. Hair is more than doubled in thickness. Make the phone call that I made. Tell them the next round sent you, 205-319-0316.
And also our friends at Harbin's Outdoors.
Yeah, Harbin's Outdoors. Again, my backyard was a complete eyesore. Jeremy Harbin and his team came out. We sat down, put a pen to paper, figured out the plan we wanted. They executed it. Absolutely love the backyard. You can go to @Harbins_outdoors. See his incredible work for yourself, from the landscaping, the hardscaping, ceramic pools. Jeremy and his team, they do it all. Again, Harbins_outdoors. Check it out today.
Talia Tungavaloa is entering the NFL draft. Sources tell Matt Zenitz of 24/7 Sports. Your thoughts on Talia Tungavaloa, who went into the portal from Maryland on his way to the NFL draft?
This is a bold statement considering some of the quarterbacks we've seen play this year, but Talia will never take a snap in the regular season.
That is a bold statement.
He's too small. He's too mistake prone. I don't think he can throw into those tight windows. I mean, what is maybe 5'9", 5'10"?
I think he's a little taller than Tua, but I do not know that. Lunsford, if you know his height, because he quarterbacked Thompson, jump in here and give us the height here. I don't know if you got a microphone set up over there or not, but Lunsford called some of his games. You don't know his height? They don't come to the best analysts in the
Well,
business.
I'll tell you that this is, to me, one of the dumb decisions because you've got an opportunity to come back and play college football and make NIL money. He's not going to get drafted.
Yeah, you're right. He could be a undrafted free agent there.
Yeah.
All right. I got a couple of questions here from the chat room. One of them, BM678. Alabama fans, Nick Saban worried about his legacy. Kirby's already got 2 national championships, and he's only 48 right now. If I said Kirby Smart's not coaching at Georgia by the time he's 55, if I put it at 54.5, would you take the under or the over?
I'd take the under. And just a couple of things. I mean, the thing is, Kirby's going to be in this college football playoff every year. Like, I don't see a world where Georgia doesn't get into a 12-team playoff ever.
Agreed.
With that said, Kirby is still an old school guy. I know he can relate to the players at 48 still, but I think much like Nick Saban, I really believe Nick Saban would have continued coaching if it wasn't today's new landscape where you have to deal with all this bullshit of guys shaking you down, your own current roster shaking you down and trying to get more money each and every year. And I think eventually that's going to be what breaks Kirby.
Yeah, I would take the under on that as well. I just don't know, like guys that have been coaching as long as Kirby as a head coach, you're going to see him go much over that age anyway. This is not just Kirby related. I think this is about everybody in college football related. The money is so good and the demands are so high now. I think he will be under that age.
Yeah, I mean, imagine being 55 and having at that point, I don't know, $50 million and being able to do what the hell you want to do. And if you want to be an analyst and still stay close to college football and, be able to, work that 2 days a week and make 7 figures. I mean, the options are going to be really good for Kirby Smart.
Yeah. I would tell you this. How old is Kirby's kids, his son?
I don't know. I would say he's probably 10, 11, 12. Is that about right, you think?
Oldest kid is a daughter, I believe. So I believe that when his son gets to be, let's say his son grows up and is playing high school football or high school baseball, basketball, whatever, that Kirby seems like the kind of dad when he'll have made so much money by then and accomplished so much at winning at Georgia that I think he shuts it down and goes and watches his kids play games on Friday nights.
I see that.
Just my opinion. Just my opinion.
I just think, and I think Nick Saban, even he's much older than Kirby, is in this situation right now. And I think Kirby fears like that's, if I retire at say 55, if I'm Kirby, in my mind, I got at least another good 30 or 40 years of my life, maybe. What am I going to fill that time with? Like the first, 30 years of my adulthood or 20 years of my adulthood, I filled it with grinding out a coaching living and working. How am I going to fill the last 30 years of my life? I think that scares a lot of these guys.
Yes, so he's got 2 twins that are 16, and his youngest son is 12.
Yeah. I don't know if the 16s play sports, but if the 12-year-old, which I believe is a son, if he's
the 12-year-old's the one that he was helping coach his under-8 football team back in the day. So that's the one to look out for.
Yeah. And, Kirby's the kind of guy you could see 4 years from now, the junior year coaching opening at his son's high school. And there's Kirby Smart takes the job, DC in high school. He cash that money and then go there and give back to the youth. But your point, BM678, is that he does have a tremendous head start on Nick Saban if he wants to coach until he's 72 on the amount of national championships he can win, because Georgia is the program now. They are the alpha in college football. Probably should have been in the 14 playoff even without the loss, even with the loss to Alabama, and could have won the whole dang thing had they been in that thing if they'd had another shot at it, even with one loss. So they're the team to beat. And when the new rankings come out in August to start the year, they will be number 1 in the country. Conversation continues on. Trash coming up in a moment. We are nonstop today, all the way to the top of the hour, being brought to you in part by our friends, Brownie, at JohnstonRVCenter.com, JohnstonRVCenter.com.
I-65 exit 304 in Coleman, 334 in Decatur, always online, as you said, at JohnstonRVCenter.com. You're going to start hearing a lot of people talk about RV shows with the spring and summer just around the corner. And Johnston RV says, why wait for spring and summer? We'll do an RV show right now. So they're doing it at both locations. Now, I am just going to guess offhand, both these locations could potentially be closed today. So if you're off and you're looking for an RV, you might want to check in advance. Coleman and Decatur both got hit kind of hard by the winter weather. I-65 exit 304 in Coleman, 334 in Decatur. And they are always online. You can find that information I'm just talking about at johnstonrvcenter.com. All the new stuff from Forest River is there, and there's a lot of used stuff there as well. Prices starting as low as $175 a month. $175 a month with approved credit at Johnston RV Center, I-65 exit 304 in Coleman, 334 in Decatur, and always online at johnstonrvcenter.com.
Rusty says, if I'm Kirby, I win a couple of more national championships, and then I'm checking out and enjoying all my money and spending that in my 50s is the way he would do it. Steven says he doesn't think Georgia makes the playoffs this year. I disagree with Steven there. I think they're easily in the playoffs this year. Let's just start with the fact that they've got maybe the best quarterback in the country back in Carson Beck. Going into the year, I don't know who you'd rank as the best quarterback in America, but Carson Beck's in the conversation, right?
Yeah, Carson Beck would definitely be in the conversation. I'm trying to figure out the obvious who that guy would be right now.
Well, Milroe's in the conversation. I don't know what will be around him, but he's obviously a playmaker.
I think at Oregon with the talent around him, I think Dylan Gabriel will be a guy that we're talking about.
Yeah, and again, don't be shocked if Oregon's a top 5 team in college football. Them and Ohio State picked to finish 1-2 in the SEC. I would say Jackson Dart has to be in the conversation.
Yeah, I would go Quinn Ewers over Dart. But Dart's really good. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be – I mean, look, it's not going to be the quarterbacks we saw this year. I mean, this was a special year of quarterbacks in college football, and ultimately I think it's going to be a special year. I think there could be 3 or 4 franchise quarterbacks that come out of this draft.
Yeah, well, I want to ask you that because Caleb Williams made it official yesterday. He's tired of trying to hold the Bears hostage, and he did declare for the NFL draft. Yesterday was the deadline, by the way. So all those quarterbacks we just announced, from Beck to Milroe to Quinn Ewers to Dart, they're in. They're in for college football next year. They missed the draft deadline. So those folks are in. But if I ask the question, how many, and this isn't how many will be drafted in the first round, how many quarterbacks do you think are worthy to be drafted in the first round this upcoming NFL draft from college football now that Caleb Williams is in?
I'm going to go 6, and let me see if I'm right. I'm going to go Caleb. I'm going to go Drake May. I'm going to go Jaden Daniels. I am going to go Michael Penix Jr. I am going to go – I don't think Bo is a first-round guy. I just don't see it.
Well, he could be a first-round guy, but I'm saying worthy.
I think J.J. McCarthy is worthy. I think J.J. McCarthy is going to be good. That's 5. And who would I be missing here? That might be it.
I would go 4. I liked your first 4 before you got to J.J. McCarthy. And I may switch out McCarthy for either Drake May or Daniels or Penix whenever we get to that point.
Yeah, the only 2 that I feel like are slam dunks are Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams. Like, I think Caleb Williams, although he won a Heisman, I think he's going to ultimately have a better NFL career. This is kind of like Pat Mahomes. Like when Pat Mahomes was drafted, this is the ultimate freezing take from me. I was like, I don't know what Kansas City's doing. He's number 10 overall. It makes no sense. But I do think Caleb Williams is going to have a career like Mahomes. I don't know if he'll win that many championships, but I think, and this is not me being a USC homer, I think Caleb Williams at this next level is going to be a can't-miss guy.
You've owned that Pat Mahomes style. We'll give you credit for that because I think most people would have just forgotten you ever even said that. you have owned that for years, though. Anytime he does anything, you point out that you doubted him.
It's comical. But did you guys see that? And look, obviously, this is we get paid to try to entertain you guys and have a little fun on an icy day. We're not general managers, but I just remember watching games where he put up these massive numbers under Cliff Kingsbury, but they wouldn't win the games. They never would win the games. They barely got bowl eligible. And I just didn't see him being a guy that could take the weight of a franchise on. Caleb Williams seems like a guy that is ready-made for that. But,
Yeah, I was just going to look at quarterbacks that were drafted before him. Mitch Trubisky. You remember everybody in that draft thought Mitch Trubisky was the best quarterback in that draft out of North Carolina, right?
Yeah, and who was the kicker that put it off the upright when Philadelphia went on and won the Super Bowl that year, where really Chicago had 11 wins under Matt Nagy, and he was your starting quarterback. And I thought Trubisky really showed some upside that year, and then he lost his confidence, and that whole organization kind of fell apart. But they make that field goal, maybe things are totally different for his career.
And that was the only one drafted in front of him. He was the second quarterback in that draft. Deshaun Watson went 2 picks after him to the Texans, but Trubisky went up high, and then you got to Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, interesting. That's the NFL news. Unless you want to talk USC, they hired the Rams defensive line coach Eric Henderson to be the co-defensive coordinator with Danton Lynn. So Lincoln Riley has his coaching staff in line now. Lincoln, by the way, in Tampa last night on the sidelines, watching his 2 former quarterbacks, Baker Mayfield and Jalen Hurts, battle it out in the playoffs. Said he wouldn't miss it for the world. Glad he was able to be there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. When Baker Mayfield came out, back to my terrible take on Pat Mahomes, I said that Baker Mayfield could be kind of a Brett Favre-like quarterback, and I think that really has shown this year. I mean, he's still a gunslinger. I think he annoys a lot of people that aren't his fans. But, man, he's gritty. And, when he's playing his best football, he's a really good quarterback.
Yeah. All right, we're rolling on. This is show number 619. We're 221 days away from week 0. A lot of portal movement going on for Alabama. We'll keep you up to date. And that 2025 recruiting class continues to pull out and reevaluate with the new coaching staff. But as we started the show off, Kane Womack, from South Alabama, also formerly known as Kane Womack, is now the defensive coordinator at Alabama. That has been confirmed by South Alabama that he is leaving. I have not seen an official confirmation yet from Alabama, but it is a done deal. Everybody who reports that has done that. Yeah.
You guys see some of the potential candidates to take the South Alabama job?
You know who's on that staff is Major Applewhite. And I know it has not worked out for him. I would have to imagine his name is mentioned pretty prominently.
Yeah.
I've seen his name. I've seen Rich Rodriguez.
I know. You know who the longest tenured college football coach in this state is right now, don't you?
It has to be Rich Rod, right?
It's Rich Rodriguez. That's pretty crazy to think about.
That is, because he got there right before Hugh Freeze did.
Yep.
Down there. Keep in mind, I don't know if Bill Clark wants to coach again. But Bill Clark's out there if he wants to get back in it. Yep. See that. In the NFL circles, Harbaugh met yesterday with the Chargers. Bill Belichick met with the Atlanta Falcons yesterday. It'd be weird to see Belichick with the Falcons. You got to still think he's in the mix for the Cowboys if they pull the trigger.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys would make – I don't know. Would it make the most sense? For Belichick, I don't think he wants to go out, obviously, with his worst season since 1992. But I think he wants to find a place where he can win one more championship, because I think there is something about proving it wasn't Brady, that Belichick did have something to do with this. And I think now, just based on the last couple of years, people are like, it was Brady. So I think Belichick's got to be really careful in his selection. And I think the far-fetched thing about going to Atlanta is Desmond Ridder is not going to be a quarterback that can win you a championship. And even if you draft a quarterback this year, how long is it going to take for him to develop into a championship quarterback? So really the one that makes sense for Belichick would be the Chargers with Herbert, but we'll see.
If you look at C.J. Stroud, though, it happens faster than it used to. He's got the Texans.
Well, that's true.
We got basketball tonight. Brownie, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You mentioned the Brandon Marcello tweet last night about if I take you back to the 2020 national championship game and Alabama's hiring the coordinators for Indiana. If I took you back to the 28-3 Super Bowl and showed them that Falcons announcement that they just completed an interview with Bill Belichick, I mean, how odd does that seem now with his connection to the most painful moment in Atlanta Falcons history? And now they're interviewing him, and a lot of coaches wouldn't mind, or a lot of Falcons fans wouldn't mind having him.
100%. Hey, by the way, War Damn Pods, part of our Disrupt the Media family up here. It's the Village Vice, and it's got a really good thing up right now. It's called Alabama is Vulnerable. and Auburn can take advantage of that. It's a new Village Vice, episode 81. It's up at War Damn Pods over on the Disrupt the Media YouTube channel. Go there, like, and subscribe. It's specifically for War Damn Pods. Auburn content all the time from the folks at the Village Vice. So go check that out there. Also, before we get to trash, LT, I want to remind everyone that we got basketball tonight, 6 o'clock, SEC Network, Alabama hosting Missouri. In the past 5 games, Alabama's backcourt, Sears is averaging 20 points a game. Griffin is averaging 13 points a game. Wrightsall is averaging 12 points a game. And Estrada is averaging 11 points a game. 4 guards, backcourt in the last 5 games, all averaging double figures. Pretty strong from the Tide as they get into SEC play.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think more importantly, though, and we touched on this with Dane Bradshaw, is Alabama coming off of holding Mississippi State to 33% shooting, and that was on the road in Starkville. And I think State is a really good, sneaky team that's going to beat a lot of teams this year. So guard play obviously coming together, but more importantly, it looks like the defense is showing some life.
Okay, Auburn also in action tomorrow night. Earlier in the show, we talked to Auburn assistant head coach Stephen Pearl. That's in our podcast section, and Taylor and Forrester are sending out a lot of great stuff on our social media platforms at Next Round Live. Dane Bradshaw earlier with us talking about Alabama's game tonight and all of SEC basketball, also available there. Before you tell us about Mortgage Right and give us trash, LT, Secession and the Bear racked up at the Emmy Awards last night. Did you watch any of it?
I did not. A little disappointed in young Jack Taylor. Invited him to come over and watch the game last night, and he said he was staying with mom and sister to watch the Emmys. Not surprised about Succession. The Bear, I thought the Bear was good. I kind of gave it up midway through. I wasn't as into it as a lot of people were, but I thought it was solid. But no surprises there.
Listed as a comedy, by the way. It won Best Comedy.
The Bear did?
Yeah, it was Best Comedy.
Well, Succession was and Lunsford, correct me if I'm wrong, but the first couple of seasons, it was nominated as comedy.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it won Best Drama last night.
Sadly, I laugh at a lot of stuff I shouldn't, from movies like Sling Blade to Succession. But to me, Succession, although it was, it seemed to be a really dark drama, but it was also a dark comedy.
Kieran Culkin won Best Actor. You called it from scene 1 of the final season.
Well, I think really when, he was trying to eulogize his father, Brian Cox, when he passed away, I think that won the award for him. He was, and I think it was a perfect character, from the first season to where it ended up for Roman. A dysfunctional, kind of the odd kid out, billionaire family, didn't really get a lot of love from his parents. And he was such a unique, disturbing character, but he played it so well.
Sarah Snook won Sexiest Person on Movies and Television. Best Actress.
I just can't believe, if you watched Bella Ramsey in The Last of Us, she was so freaking good. And I'm not going to take anything away from Shiv. She really developed as a better actress, I thought, every season, and a little more depth to her character. But I love what Bella Ramsey was able to do with that character from The Last of Us.
Matthew McFadden was the Best Supporting Actor.
Tom and Greg, one of the best duos we've ever seen on camera. Yep. The rapport between those two, the writing, it was just instant chemistry. And, McFadden is now doing Mercedes commercials. This is a guy that you will see get more and more work.
Yeah, McFadden and Tom and Nick Saban have teamed up now. Mercedes commercials in the future. All right, before we hit the open, Lunsford, one trivia question. The Lions won a playoff game the other night, breaking a record, the longest streak in American sports since 1992 in football. Now, all of the 4 major sports in America, who now has the longest time since they won a playoff game? Who is it? It's not Brownies Dolphins. We talked about them being the NFL streak.
Yeah.
Different sport. Anybody?
This is North American sports?
Yes, in fact, it'd be NHL, Major League Baseball, the NFL, or the NBA. Who is the
So for
longest?
the NHL, it would be winning a series, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh,
Much like the Dolphins, this franchise has a great history, just not lately.
I mean, I know the Maple Leafs haven't won a cup in forever, but I think they won a couple of postseason series last year.
It is not. It is a Major League Baseball team.
Is it the Mariners?
It is not. It is the Cincinnati Reds. Who
Okay.
have not won a playoff game since 1995.
And I remember being at Baumhauer's when they won that series against my Dodgers.
Yeah. How about that? Long time ago, 1995 for the Reds, who were so good in the 70s and then early 90s. And it's been late 80s, early 90s. It's been a long, long time. Let's do trash. If you will, Rockstar and or Forrester and or Lunsford and or Taylor or somebody else, hit the open.
Father of two, Dale Decker, suffers from a rare and seemingly incurable condition that leads to him suffering up to 100 unwanted orgasms a day.
LT's Trash is presented by Mortgage Right. Mortgages done the right way.
Hey, buying a home, major milestone in life, getting it right comes under the right advice at the right time. That's why we're proud to partner with the friends at Mortgage Right who do mortgages the right way. Call them today, 205-815-9200. Go online, apply there, mortgageright.com/TNR, NMLS 2239, equal housing listener. I just saw Nick Sirianni leaving the Bucs game and a Eagles fan throwing popcorn on him.
Ooh. Wow. That's a one step for getting fired. Does Rockstar have a banjo on his wall?
He does have a banjo on his wall. He's got a, how do you do this? Banjo, I got a lap slide, I got a guitar, I got a mandolin. Yeah.
How about that?
I mean, like at that special moment, do you pull anything off the wall there?
What do you mean special
serenade
moment?
Nancy? You know,
It's such a Dunaway.
the aftermath, like in the old movies, they used to light a cigarette. Do you pull a guitar or a banjo off the wall and serenade Nancy?
What really gets the damn busting is the banjo. Every time.
I would go aftermath with a banjo. Thank you for a good time. Thank you.
I'm on my damp January right now. Are you on your damp January? Okay.
I'll be coming around that corner.
I had to read this story twice, and I can't believe they only got $3 million out of this, Rocky. But this one, online retailer eBay Inc. will pay $3 million, a fine to resolve criminal charges over her harassment campaign waged by employees who sent live spiders, cockroaches, and other disturbing items to the home of a Massachusetts couple, according to court papers filed Thursday. Now, here's what went down.
Well, real quick, this is an update. This story happened about, I think, probably 4 or 5 years ago. That's how long this has taken to, because we did this in trash at the old place, and it hadn't been resolved yet. Now it's finally resolved.
I didn't remember this, but the Justice Department charged eBay with stalking, witness tampering, and obstruction of justice more than 3 years after the employees who were prosecuted in the extensive scheme to intimidate David and Ina Steiner. Now, the couple produced an online newsletter called E-Commerce Bites that upset eBay executives with its coverage. eBay engaged in an absolutely, quote, horrific criminal conduct. The company's employees and contractors involved in this campaign put the victims through pure hell in a petrifying campaign aimed at silencing the reporting and protecting the eBay brand, according to acting Massachusetts U.S. Attorney Josh Levy. I just would think that if you were getting a bunch of stuff sent to you by eBay that were cockroaches and spiders, that you would get more than $3 million. I guess this is the $3 million fine, and maybe they're going to settle in civil court.
That I don't know, but just to take the effort to send somebody some spiders and some cockroaches, that takes some time to package, to seal that package, wait for it to be delivered for payday.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Brown, we've heard the story before about the Burmese pythons and how they are killing the ecosystem of the Everglades in Florida. A lot of people are getting pythons. They're letting them loose. They don't like them as pets. And they're saying that there is a invasive species that might be next up for Florida. I know Rocky's seen this. Brown, would you like to guess what the next Burmese python of Florida might be?
Cincinnati Reds.
I am going to go with what we just learned actually is a brown widow, not the black widow, but the baby of the brown recluse and the black widow, the brown widow.
That scares me to death. It is not the brown widow, but Florida has at least 40 more invasive species to worry about, with some unexpected creatures topping the list, according to a recent, quote, horizon scanning study. Now, led by University of Florida scientists, study assessed 460 species that had not yet been recorded in Florida for their potential harm should they be introduced. They are saying the most likely is going to come into the fold is going to be a monkey. Going to be a crab eating. Is it a macaque? What is it, Rocky?
Macaw, maybe?
Yeah, it's a type of monkey. And it looks like
it's a little Japanese monkey. It's a little Asian monkey that I guess people are trying to make home pets and then getting rid of them. Just like
I don't think it would do well though with all of the snakes and alligators and everything. The monkey would seem like it would be very vulnerable in the ecosystem of the Florida Everglades.
Yeah, it looks like the solution is going to happen itself by the pythons, which is going to make the pythons feed and have more babies. So that's going to be another issue. More pythons.
So is there a fear too though that the monkeys are carrying around like AIDS and Ebola and stuff like that?
Yeah, usually how it goes. They have a camera crew with them though.
Well, no, I've seen the movie, man. I've seen the Dustin Hoffman movie. I know it happens.
There's a planet full of them, like way over west. They've made like.
Do you guys remember what happened in the beginning of that movie though?
Dempsey coughed in the theater.
Yeah,
right?
but remember, it was Patrick Dempsey pulled over, and it was the monkey that spit in his eye.
Yeah.
And then it infected him, and then he went to the movies that night, started coughing it up, and boy, it was over after that.
Yeah. Yes, then we were doing the show at LT's house.
Yep. This one out of Canada, the third annual Lumbee Outhouse Race takes place January 21st at the West Salmon Trail parking lot on Bissett Street. Now, a show and shine will start at 11 a.m. with the race itself getting underway at noon. Teams of 3 will race 3-sided outhouses using skis, sheet metal, or anything else that can be used to slide across the packed snow. 2 team members will push the outhouse while a third sits on the throne in the family-friendly event. There will also be a barbecue fundraiser, hot chocolate, and popcorn.
It's a good mix. So if you have three people, one on the throne, who's doing the pushing? Who's on the throne?
On our team, I would be the one on the throne, but I'll need a helmet.
Okay.
I mean, I love the fact that you're going to fill people up with a barbecue and then do this thing, because there's going to be that one guy that's just in the portalet, letting the barbecue go, and they're going to start pushing, and it's going to be bad.
Wrong one, John. Wrong one.
Yeah, no, not that one.
I found where they keep the hot chocolate.
Another example of something that will kill you in Australia. Australian snake hunter discovered the second most venomous snake in the world in a toddler's underwear drawer. Mark Pelly, based in Melbourne, was asked to remove a 5-foot eastern brown snake from a 3-year-old's bedroom. Now, Pelly wrote the ordeal on Facebook, quote, "Mom went to get some clothes for her son, found a large 5-foot brown snake instead. We figured out what happened. She carried in folding washing yesterday. As she was taking clothes from the clothesline, the brown snake crawled into it." Now, the eastern brown snake, they're fast-moving, aggressive, and known for their bad tempers. No thank you.
Wow.
Finally, I've got lesser-known bad omens from around the world. Egypt, using scissors wrong. Egyptians seem to take the use of scissors very seriously. If you use them the wrong way, it can be bad tidings for you, your family, your ancestors, and even your descendants. This omen concerns making a cutting motion with scissors without anything between the blades. That's because it's thought that you're cutting up unseen souls and spirits floating in the air. Supposedly, they'll get angry and come back later to attack you.
I don't believe that.
The next one,
They're real close to you. They're real close to your body if you're just cutting. And Aunt Jackie can't be using scissors right either, guys.
I didn't realize this. Mexico believes owls are bad luck. According to Mexican tradition, owls are bad luck. When you hear the call of an owl or see one in Mexico, it means death is near, either to you or a loved one.
Oof. So it's a bad omen there if I hear it now. I don't hear many owls, but I did hear one. Where was I? The other day, I was at somebody's place and I heard an owl.
Yeah.
I'll tell you where it was. When we were out in California, and we were visiting the family house there during the Cowboys game, I heard an owl. I was like,
Yeah.
I got owls out here.
There's some stone ass killers, by the way.
Oh, yeah. That's an
People
different
realize
animal that
Well, I
doesn't
mean-
necessarily get put in that category.
Is there a chance that urban legend started because the cartel used that as a signal down in Mexico, going whoo whoo, as a signal to go running in, and obviously you hear the sound, and then boom, death and destruction follows.
If you're in Japan and you happen to whistle at night, you might get a few nasty looks. That's because, according to folk tradition, night whistling will attract snakes to the village or city of the person whistling. Thank God we don't get that in our building with Brown every morning.
I know. How you doing, Dunaway?
Hey, finally,
Romania. Okay.
Traditions around Romanian weddings are fascinating, full of superstition. The way weddings usually begin in Romania can be seen as a bad sign. Traditionally, around midnight before the wedding, the bride is, quote, kidnapped by the groom's friends. This sounds a little dangerous. Who then demand a ransom for the bride. The ransom is usually booze. During the wedding itself, it's also customary to put a loaf of sweet bread above the bride's head for good luck. But there is one thing that never needs to be done that is seen as universally bad, and that's if during the wedding ceremony, the groom drops his bride's ring. That means the marriage is 100% doomed. Do you think anybody does this purposely, just because they're like, I shouldn't have been marrying this girl and I'm going to drop it?
I don't want it to work. So
I mean, that was an Office episode, wasn't it, Brown? Where they kidnapped the bride and they had to go find the bride.
Yeah, Rockstar, do you remember that one? I think that was
Mose kidnapped.
If it was after Michael left, I did not see it. I have not seen any of the episodes after Michael leaves.
I could be wrong, but I think it was Andy and
Meredith.
Meredith were going to get married, and Dwight kidnapped her because he loved her.
Angela.
Thank you.
And Mose kidnapped it, right?
Mose kidnapped her, yeah. Hey, I do have an update. This was sent to me by Josh. An update on the actual trash open. Rarely do we get an update on the open, but here it is. Can you guys read that?
Oh, wow.
So
that way he just has fewer orgasms.
That's right. Dale Decker
He's pulling double duty.
Yeah, he swapped sides, so he's a girl now.
Yep.
Oh,
there you
good.
go. Yeah.
Wow.
So now he can just fake it.
That's all I got.
That's Trash Today, brought to you by our friends at Mortgage Right. Mortgage Right LT. Tell us about them.
Yeah, buying a home, major milestone in life, getting it right comes down to the right advice at the right time. That's why we're proud to partner with the friends at Mortgage Right, who do mortgages the right way. Call them today, 205-815-9200. You can apply online, mortgageright.com/TNR, NMLS 2239, equal housing lender.
All right, so we roll on here on the next round. Rockstar's going to hang with us for a few more seconds, and then we'll do a reset of what's going on with Alabama and everything. So, Rockstar, what did you think of the Iowa caucus? No, I'm kidding.
Hey, that
What was after Iowa?
freaking Nikki Haley will not quit texting me.
Oh yeah.
And I block them nonstop, and they find other numbers to text me from.
Well,
Can you not do the text stop to unsubscribe? Do you text stop and unsubscribe?
I just block them.
I think it's probably going to take care of itself over the next couple of weeks there. I think you probably quit worrying about it soon.
It looks like that, yeah.
Yeah.
That's Brown's way of saying she finished third. And it's about to be a two-person race.
Yeah.
And the other one's going to hang in there just in case.
Yeah, that's right. She may not be the first one to go, but she ain't going to be the last one standing. I can promise you that.
That often New Hampshire they go if you follow politics. But, they were dealing with some weather last night, too, out there. That was already crazy. All right. Today's the day I'm going to watch True Detective. Tell me, Rockstar, have you watched it yet?
No. Right now I got Paw Patrol on and featured by Blaze and Sesame Street. We don't watch anything here other than cartoons. Nothing.
Yeah. I've actually seen it twice now.
Really?
The whole thing?
Yeah.
Or just the first episode?
I just wanted to watch it again. And, I missed, I'm not really good at initially seeing, what do they call the Easter eggs, Rocky?
Yeah.
But I saw a really good one yesterday when I watched it for a second time. And I think it's going to be an incredible season. I'm extremely excited about it. I do think there is a supernatural element to it. So this is going to be more in line with, I don't know how to explain it. I guess there was a little supernatural in the first season of True Detective, right?
Well, from the articles I'm seeing about it, I know it got reviewed, but they're accusing people of review bombing it because it is a female cast, and it's like they don't want a strong female lead, and so people are review bombing it, say it's the worst season premiere of any show they've ever seen. Because a bunch of the Daily Mail said the overwhelmingly review was awful. So I don't know.
Look, I will say that you guys know I'm the first taking a shot at the WNBA game or somebody ironing a shirt. But look, I just like really good entertainment, and Jodie Foster. I think we forget how good of an actress she is. This is a girl that's won. I think she won the Academy Award for The Accused. She won one for Silence of the Lambs. Just in the hour and 15 minutes I saw her in this debut, this is going to be an incredible character. I can tell the Callie Reese girl that plays opposite of her. They've obviously got history, and I guess it'll play out, and we'll see what happened between their two characters. But she's a former MMA fighter in real life. And I think this is only her second role, but it doesn't seem too big for her. So it is the creator, writer, director is a female. The two leads are female, but I don't know how you can't get past that if you just like really good storylines and, quality entertainment.
Two more things, Rockstar and LT and Brownie, to put on your radar and all of our viewers to watch. I'm told Death and Other Details on Hulu is entertaining. And then Which Brings Me to You, for your romantic comedy folks out there, Which Brings Me to You is a movie that's coming out maybe this weekend. Which Brings Me to You. 20-somethings dating, and they talk about their exes, and that gets me to you. And so apparently that's a good rom-com there. So those are two other things if you want to watch there. Our Birmingham Squadron back in action Thursday night, January the 18th, 7 o'clock down at Legacy Arena. Tickets just $15. That includes a limited edition Squadron Stadium Cup that you get with that ticket. Get your tickets at the door, or just go to the Squadron website right there with Birmingham .gleague.nba.com. Just look the Birmingham Squadron up, Google them, or just get the tickets at the gate right there at Legacy Arena. Thursday night, January 18th, it's college night. Wear your college colors and college gear and enjoy college night with the Birmingham Squadron. Tickets just $15, and that includes the limited edition Squadron Stadium Cup this Thursday night, 7 o'clock, down at Legacy Arena. We're looking forward to that as well. Rocky, man, thank you very much for hanging out with us. We're going to, unless you want to sit there and chime in on Alabama's roster movement and everything else.
I got some stuff to say about this transfer portal thing. I don't want to, first of all,
the big question right now, though, is Caleb Downs, and I'm trying to get the latest. Man, I think people are freaking out about this. I don't know what ultimately his plan is. I mean, who do you guys think would be in the mix? Texas?
Oh, I think it's instantly to Georgia. Yep.
Yeah, I think I remember reading yesterday his finalists, I think, were Ohio State and Notre Dame were in his finalists too. Yep. So you would have to think if you like them the first go around, you might look again. But I will say I credit him for being deliberate about this. I mean, a lot of guys hit that portal right away and already had their destination ready to go in Isaiah Bond's case. And that's fine for them. But I credit Caleb Downs for saying, I'm not going to make a rash decision here. I'll be deliberate about this. He's waited to see who Alabama's hired. as defensive coordinator. I would have to imagine that Kane Womack, the first thing he does, if he's not already in Tuscaloosa today, the first thing he does is he sits down with any key defensive players that are in town right now, that are in class right now, and sells them on his vision of Alabama's defense.
They had a team meeting last night, and Caleb was there, but doesn't mean anything. He still has 20 plus days to enter the transfer portal, and he is the best, I think, freshman in America. So he could definitely hit the portal right there. Forster telling us Robbie Ashford has made his decision. He's at South Carolina. It was an official visit he took. So Robbie Ashford goes to play for Shane Beamer up there.
Boy, I bet South Carolina fans are just celebrating in the streets right now. I would have thought Robbie Ashford would have probably known by now. You go from Oregon to Auburn, that much like who went to Texas State earlier?
Jaden DeLaura.
Yeah, Jaden DeLaura is a 10 times the quarterback that Robbie Ashford is. I mean, I don't know if Ashford thinks he's going to play at South Carolina. I find that hard to believe.
Well, maybe he doesn't play quarterback. Brown.
You got better than I expected. Yeah, and maybe not. But for me, you got better than I expected quarterback play out of Spencer Rattler at South Carolina. I mean, that's better than what I thought you would get from Spencer Rattler in his time at South Carolina. So much so, to your point, Lance, that's a pretty big downgrade.
Yeah, but we've seen even Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma. You saw moments, and you saw elite moments, and then you really saw it at South Carolina against Tennessee and against Clemson. And I've never, Robbie Ashford can fly. So in space, he's really good, but I've just never seen anything close to that.
Yeah. Royal Payne says T-Rob was likely gone before Saban retired. That's something we've talked about a couple of times, Brown, that even before Nick made that announcement, Georgia was reaching out.
Well, he is responding to Bobby, who said, had Alabama screw up not keeping T-Rob as defensive coordinator, Downs would still be there. The day Nick Saban retired, and we've talked about this a couple of times on the show, we had heard the rumblings, and there was one in particular person that reached out to us and told us we trusted them. And then when they told us who their source was, we really trusted them about Nick Saban's retirement. And the people, Dunaway, that we started reaching out to within the Alabama football bubble, people that are in the Malmore facility on a day-to-day basis, told us two things. Number one, that Nick Saban was interviewing replacements for the already open staff positions. And number two, that he was working with trying to keep T-Rob because Georgia had already lobbed that offer in there to Tavares Robinson. So before Tavares Robinson even knew Nick Saban was retiring, he was already talking about going to Georgia and perhaps even going to Georgia. That might have still happened if Nick Saban had stuck around. I don't know. I don't know what Nick Saban was going to do at defensive coordinator, but Nick Saban already knew that Kevin Steele was retiring and had not elevated him yet to defensive coordinator as of the day he retired.
Yeah, and there could be something to that, but if I'm T-Rob, fresh, new regime coming in, if I'm offered the exclusive defense coordinator, it's an offensive staff like that, I know I'm going to be able to put my stamp on it. And ultimately, I think Alabama would have paid more. Kind of weird.
Yeah. By the way, Jay Price says, are you guys going to talk about the Auburn commitment? If we talked about Texas safety Jaron Thompson yesterday on the show, I don't know if there's been another one out of the portal today. Throw it up there, Jay Price, and I'd love to talk about it. That's the last one I have for Auburn. But again, there's so much moving in and out right now. I may have missed something, and I apologize if that is the case. So please let me know if I missed another one. We'd love to talk about it. But the last one I had was Jaron Thompson, safety from Texas to Auburn, and we did that. That was it, Jim? Okay, that was yesterday. But, yeah, he's a guy who played at Texas and will add some depth there in the secondary for Auburn next year and should be on the field in nickel to start things off for Auburn the next year. All right, final thoughts brought to you by our friends at New York Butcher Shop. They also bring you our steak bets. They're also bringing you Brown's date night on Friday night. And LT, they're just a great place to go grab some food.
Oh, Jim has established such a good relationship with Maddie. And all these stores were closing last night. And so she went to the Cahaba Heights location of New York Butcher Shop, and he loaded us up minnow dip. We had a spinach artichoke dip. Got some fresh ground beef for spaghetti and meatballs last night. Rare quality, well done service. Jim and his crew, they're the best. Huge deli sandwiches for lunch. Best steaks, chicken, everything out there. 2 locations, the original in Cahaba Heights, one on Highway 119 in Greystone. Get in, go see the fine folks at the New York Butcher Shop.
Hey, Dunaway, I know this probably is not where you were going. I just wanted to point this out real quick. I saw this last night and meant to bring it up earlier. And this is indicative of what Kalen DeBoer has to do. And I think if you're an Alabama fan, you're encouraged that he's taking these steps. The Alabama Football Coaches Association, that's high school coaches, their convention is Thursday night, January 25th. Their keynote speaker was
Nick Saban.
Their new keynote speaker is
Kalen DeBoer.
That's right. And if you're an Alabama fan, that's very encouraging, because one of the things he's got to do, and we talked about this yesterday, is he's got to get to know Alabama high school coaches and Georgia high school coaches and Mississippi high school coaches, the coaches he doesn't really know from not having recruited in this part of the country. That is a huge step in the right direction to say, all right, Nick Saban was supposed to speak there. I'll take that spot. And it'll be my introduction to a room full of Alabama high school football coaches.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
No, you go ahead first. I want to make one final point after you.
Okay. I was just going to say that now that Kane Womack is announced at Alabama as the defensive coordinator, watch for the defensive side of the ball to fill up the rest of the staff, the assistant coaches, to go with Womack and Freddie Roach, who is kept over from the last from Nick Saban's coaching staff. And that will be huge on 2 fronts. One, recruiting, and also like who's going to be the DB coach. Maybe that helps Caleb Downs make his decision, but it's got to happen quickly. Womack is a comfort hire, a quality coach, leaving a head coaching job, but he's familiar with DeBoer, not familiar with that roster. He'll sell himself to that, but those position coaches, whether it's the DB coach, linebacker coach, D-line coach, to go with Freddie Roach there, all that becomes important hires too, and they need to be elite recruiters. Devontae Smith, DB, says he made it sound like it was a long meeting with Kalen DeBoer one-on-one. And he said, for the guys who are hitting the portal that haven't taken time to get to know these guys, they're really good guys. And he said, we talked about things that weren't football. So Devontae Smith, the DB, not the wide receiver who almost killed the Bucs last night, he was very complimentary of the DeBoer staff. LT, you got a final thought there?
Yeah, 2 things. Any chance Carl Scott ends up on the staff? I think that there was a belief that Carl Scott did want to come back and would ultimately do that if he was the defensive coordinator. Obviously, that's not the case now, so I don't think you'll see Carl Scott. And then Michael has asked multiple times about Juju Lewis. We don't really keep up with recruiting, but this is a dude that doesn't graduate high school till 26. Michael says he's reclassified. I haven't seen this. He was a hard commit to USC and Lincoln Riley. Alabama was right there in the mix. Julian Lewis is supposed to be a great quarterback, but he's 15 years old. So even if he's reclassifying, I just find it hard to take a 15-year-old seriously. But, maybe this is the guy DeBoer's in the mix for.
But I guess he could be reclassifying from the 2026 class down to the 2025 class, meaning his recruitment is going to happen this year, right?
Yeah, I think that's what Michael was saying, but I don't know if that necessarily means that Kalen DeBoer's in the mix for him or not.
Yeah, and I just got an update, ironically, Brown.
Oh yeah.
From the Athletic, it says USC commit Julian Lewis reclassifies to 2025, and then the question is, can the Trojans keep SEC schools from flipping him?
Wow. You're right. Lance is right. We're talking about a 15-year-old there. There's a lot that can happen.
Yeah, he's legitimately 15 years old, by the way.
Yeah. On the recruiting front, this was kind of, I don't know if it was rumored last night, if it was being reported by Bama Online last night, but On3 has reported it that the 5-star, as they call him, 5-star plus wide receiver, Ryan Williams, a surprise visit last night in that meeting you referenced, Dunaway, in Tuscaloosa, was in Tuscaloosa and will come back this weekend for his official visit. You got to think Alabama, Auburn, and Texas A&M are probably in the mix for this kid, but
Texas A&M's out. Texas A&M's out. He's signed up. He's got 4 dates signed up for official visits, It's LSU first, then Alabama this weekend. Then it's the Texas Longhorns. And the last one now is Auburn on February 2nd.
Yeah, but I would not listen. This is recruiting, so you got to hesitate reading anything into anything in recruiting. But a guy just showing up on campus before his visit and talking to the new coaches. If you're an Alabama fan, if you're looking for a good sign, that would probably be something you would say, okay, it's a positive sign. Doesn't mean he's going to Alabama. Doesn't mean anything, but it's a positive sign, I would have to say, if you're an Alabama fan.
Yeah. To me, usually last visit wins.
And his last visit is who?
Auburn.
It does feel that way. I would agree.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have the floor, it seems like, if you get the last visit.
Yeah, you stack it up, I think, as a recruit's family or all that. You stack it up that way of where you want to end up so that you can get your offer from LSU, your offer from Alabama, your offer from Texas. Now, just follow me there on, okay, LSU, now to Alabama, who already had me for a while. Now they're going to up the offer a little bit. Now to Texas, who's going to give me the most amount of money. And then I go to Auburn and say, okay, here's what I've got from Texas and Alabama. What do I get here? I mean, it's just smart business, I think, at that point. And this guy is supposedly the Percy Harvin of this generation. He legit can do everything, instant impact player. So whomever gets him, it will be worth the money.
That's a huge comparison. I mean, I hate to do that to kids because Percy Harvin was an incredible college football player.
There you go. LT, I don't think you thought we could do 3 full hours without stopping, but we have done it, guys. It is over with. We plan on being back in studio tomorrow, but we'll let Coach Brown make that call a little bit later on today.
How am I in charge of this?
I don't know. It's just, you seem to be the one that is, I don't know. You seem to be the highest elevation.
No. Lance, you know what it is. The other way you want somebody else to do it so he can second guess it. That's why it fell on me.
Yeah.
Well, I'm on a flat ground. The only hill I've got to worry about is getting up to the office. You have to come down the mountain then up the mountain.
I'll make this deal with Lance. Dunaway can go in tomorrow, Lance, and if you and I can make it, we make it. If not, he doesn't go by himself. What do you think?
Yeah, that's fine with me. By the way, everything is closed out there. I've always seen people say Cracker Barrel's open. That's it.
Yeah. And Waffle House.
Of course he knows that.
And Waffle House.
Yeah.
Always open, Waffle House. All right. God bless you. God bless America. You guys be safe.